Good evening. Welcome to the priorities hearing for the Montgomery County State Delegation. Tonight is the opportunity for Montgomery County residents and stakeholders to provide testimony to the Montgomery County State Delegation, both House and Senate, in advance of our legislative session starting in January. I'm Chair Julie Polakovich-Carr, and I have the pleasure of chairing the House delegation, and we'll shortly hear from our Senate chair, Senator Kramer. I just want to go over a few housekeeping items before we get started tonight. We do have almost 60 folks signed up to testify. For people who will be testifying tonight, we are going to keep you in the waiting room. So if you're watching this on the YouTube live stream, just please know we'll admit you into Zoom when it gets closer to when your panel will be called. We are calling our witnesses in panels. Folks will have a determined amount of time to speak, and there will be a timer that you will hear the chime when your time is up, and we do ask people to abide by the time limits. For elected officials and our representatives of local governments, it's 5 minutes. For other governmental organizations, it is 3 minutes, and for other organizations and individuals, it is a 2-minute time limit. For folks who did provide us with written testimony in advance, we appreciate that, and that testimony has been distributed to all members of the delegation. I think that is everything I need to go over in terms of our housekeeping items before we get started. So I'll turn it over to Senator Kramer for his opening remarks.
And I thank you very much for that, Chair Polakovich-Carr. Good evening to all. I appreciate everyone who is here with us this evening. Looking forward to hearing priorities. The Vice Chair of the Senate delegation, Senator Sarah Love, is with us as well. I would just like to emphasize, please be mindful of the time clock. And to my colleagues from the legislature who are here, also please be mindful of the time. If you have questions, please keep them concise and to the point. And with that, I will turn it back to Chair Polakovich-Carr. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Kramer, and your remarks made me realize I forgot to mention we will take questions at the end of each panel. So for folks who are signed up to testify, after you're done testifying, just hang on, stay in the Zoom room as we get through the rest of the panel, and then we'll pause and see if there's questions from members of the delegation before we dismiss your panel. So with that, we'll get started, and I believe all of our witnesses for our first panel are here in the Zoom room. These are all elected officials or representatives of our municipal organizations. We'll be starting with County Executive Mark Elrich, then going to County Council Member Natalie Fanny Gonzalez, then representing the Board of Education, Board President Julie Yang, to be followed by Linda Moran, representing the City of Rockville, then Therese Hessler, representing the City of Gaithersburg, and our last witness on this panel is Mayor Talisha Searcy from the City of Tacoma Park. Mr. County Executive, you may begin. And sorry, Mr. Executive, you are muted.
Am I no longer muted?
You're good now.
All right. Again, thank you, Chair Polakovich-Carr, and thank you, Senator Kramer, for having us and having the opportunity to present our priorities. I think you've seen our list, so I'm not going to go over the list. I'm going to talk a little bit more generally. I want to thank you for all of the support, over the last few years. I mean, you've done amazing things, and I hope you enjoy, what you're seeing in North Bethesda, where, IHC now has a headquarters. They have 130 people, still growing and doing what we hoped they would do, which is play a role in the local biotech industry. And that's, you're doing in large part. And I want to thank you for the partnership and your understanding of what we're dealing with in terms of President Trump. This is going to be very difficult for all of us, and local government is no exception to that. I'll talk a little bit about the federal challenges. I think we know the challenges of SNAP. We're worried about, we've got a reprieve until September 30th next year. Then what happens? The federal government just launched an attack on homelessness, and this is serious for us. We're going to lose $8 million for permanent supportive housing. That will affect about 700 people, 500 families. That's a major loss of housing in Montgomery County, and that's going to leave us scrambling. We support the state actions to assist federal employees. We've run our own programs, in tandem with that. And I think the cooperation between us and the state's been really constructive. And I do urge the adoption of legislation to end the 287 immigrant enforcement agreements in Maryland. Montgomery County doesn't have one. We will not have one. Nobody should have one. And we do support legislative efforts to expand the state's unemployment insurance program, which provides temporary partial wage benefits up to $430, an amount far below what it's necessary to be unemployed and survive in Montgomery County and probably in the rest of the state. On education, the state's commitment to fully funding the blueprint for the future, I know is still on your top of your minds and trying to figure out how we're going to fit all of this in. I know that the use of funds in the school system to address specific needs of our county and our students includes expansion of eligible uses for concentration of poverty grants. We know we need substantial increases in state allocations to finance the state's share of rapidly growing construction costs. Our school system dropped a mild bomb on us a couple of weeks ago. Their request for an increase in capital funding for the schools is $160 million a year over the entire 6-year period and beyond. And that's what we're facing now. And they can make a good case for why they're in this situation. Early childhood ed continues to remain a priority for it. It's the most effective program that there is in terms of bringing kids up to grade level and being able to be successful. And we're encouraging support for increasing compensation of members of the Montgomery County Board of Education. On housing, we're encouraging, a real focus on affordable housing. Of those number of housing units that people talk about, the bulk of them are in affordable sphere. They don't get built by market forces. They require really focused attention by local government and state government to make sure you're getting the number of affordable units you need. And the need, continues to be pretty great. And the county continues to put record amounts of money into affordable housing. Also, we're encouraging you to, and the council has supported this, is to support just cause or a good cause eviction law. That's really critical for people. We continue to hear stories and meet people who are being evicted because they engaged in tenant organizing. Tenant organizing, being willing to call the housing code department and ask for an inspection because you're living under difficult circumstances is not a cause of eviction. And we're hoping we can get that bill over the wire this time. On economic development, we continue to make major investments. Because I've been involved in more than a few economic development projects and some efforts to attract people to the county that weren't successful, one of the biggest impediments is the mismatch of state resources against the resources that other states are putting up. Massachusetts had $1 billion investment fund for life sciences. We don't even come close. And so when we see the places or the companies that we don't get sometime, what we also notice is a real difference between the ability of the state to match resources that other states has. And it's very hard for the county to compete against the state of Massachusetts. We still get our successes and we get our wins, but I think we could get more wins. And the state needs us to get more wins. And I think all of us need Montgomery County to play the strongest role possible in terms of being an economic engine for the state. And we believe we have the ability to do this. Health and Human Services, the issues the Department of Disabilities Administration, DDA, continues to provide challenges for people in our county. And it's important that we get enough funding in DDA to meet the needs of so many people who are continuing to acquire support. And lastly, I'll just say, we'd encourage you to support efforts by the county to retain the county's existing authority to implement local laws and enact future laws as needed to address local challenges and priorities, and including land use and zoning authority. And we're hoping you can support efforts to enhance the county's local authority to address specific challenges facing our community. And I think the biggest challenge that we're looking at is the ability to raise money for infrastructure. I've had this discussion before. It's time for us to get on equal footing with Northern Virginia, the ability to raise special taxes through the special taxing districts where we don't have to go to residents for more money. This is what's put Virginia ahead of us, and we need to play catch up because that's the game we're playing right now. Infrastructure talks and people go where the infrastructure is. I'll stop there. I have to apologize for leaving because I have a room full of people for budget forum that I'm doing. So I have to go next door and start my budget forum. But thank you so much.
Thank you for making some time for us, Mr. County Executive. County Council Member Fanny Gonzalez, you're up next.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you to County Executive Mark Elrich before he takes off. Again, my name is Natalie Fanny Gonzalez. I'm the chair of the Economic Development Committee for the County Council. And tonight I was designated by the council president to speak in front of you. So you have me tonight. Good for you. So a couple of things. One, I would like to highlight that I want to mention how my colleagues on the council and I appreciate and value the open lines of communication that we have had with all of you. Collaboration is critical since all represent the same amazing people in Montgomery County, and the headwinds and the unknowns we're facing right now will require all of us to work together more closely than ever before. Turning to the priorities document, I want to begin by speaking very personally from the heart about the Trump administration's attack on the immigrant members of our state. I'm the only immigrant on the county council, and I take this very seriously. I was on deportation proceedings, as you may know. So what's happening right now, I'm having a hard time to recognize this country since the times I came here. And I think we need to use every single one of our powers to ensure that we defend democracy and the First Amendment. And I want to congratulate Senator Will Smith. I hear that he's going to be sponsoring the termination of 287G. And I am very happy and proud of him for doing so. And I look forward for this to be the year when we end that program. So that's the first thing. The second thing I would like to highlight is the need to increase compensation for members of the Montgomery County Board of Education. I think it's critical. They are our allies or partners. I know you're going to be introducing another bill this year. I hope this is the year where compromises are made and this bill passes. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Then I look forward to discussing all the bills affecting Montgomery County with my colleagues in January. And we hope that the delegation continues their strong commitment to respecting our local autonomy, especially over land use and zoning. You know that was coming from me. You figure, I'm assuming, know my background. And then I will just highlight a couple of the funding priorities that we have. Obviously, school construction is critical. The North Bethesda Metro Station Northern Entrance is very critical, especially when we talk about economic development and life sciences. So that's two. And then the other one that I take very personally in my district is we need to build a brand new police station in Glenmont. So we're looking into co-location between the county police station, which is District 4, that's the name of that police station, alongside Parks Police, that also needs a station. So I will really look forward to having your partnership in getting funding for those projects. And with that, my friends, I thank you so much for the opportunity to speak in front of you, and I look forward to the partnership in the upcoming General Assembly.
Thank you so much. And I think you gave us some time back for this evening. Much appreciated. Next up, Board President Yang.
Good evening, everyone. So happy to be here with you. Thank you for this opportunity. And first, thank you for your leadership in Annapolis and for the work you do every day on behalf of our county and our state. Now, as someone who have lived, worked, and raised a family here, I know how much we depend on this partnership we have with you. Education is a team sport, so none of us can carry this work alone. Now, tonight, for the upcoming legislative session, I want to share our priority briefly and then speak additional 2 points. So our priority this year at their core, our needs are very straightforward. They are to modernize what's outdated, protect what matters, and ensure our school have the flexibility and tools they need to serve every child well. So number one, we want to modernize graduation requirement. That's our first priority. The last major update was in 2018. Before a global pandemic, before AI reshaped learning and the workforce, and before the blueprint took full effect. Our kids and our teachers tell us that current requirements don't reflect today's reality or tomorrow's opportunity. We are still trying so hard to fit financial literacy in. So we are asking for a regular, predictable review cycle so Maryland's graduation standards stay relevant and rigorous and future ready. Now, second, we want to use limited dollars with maximum impact. Our other two priorities are about flexibility, so we can stretch every dollar. The first one is the AP/IB cost. Under current blueprint rules, school system must cover the full cost of all the AP and IB courses and exams, regardless of a family's ability to pay. We are asking for an income-based approach that still protect assets, but ensure limited funds go where the need is the greatest. In this bucket, we also have community school flexibility. Now, concentration of a poverty grants fund, critical wraparound service in community schools. We value these service deeply, but many of these same students also need academic supports that the current rules don't allow us to fund. So we seek flexibility to use these grants for both wraparound services and academic interventions so principals can meet the full spectrum of students' needs on their campus. Now, last one on our priority, also under the flexibility, is the school calendar. Now, we want to have a local bill for more flexibility in meeting the state's instructional time requirement. Right now, schools must meet both 180 days and 1,080 hours. Last year, the emergency snow closure forced MCPS to extend the school year by 2 days. That extension cost $1.75 million, and it wiped out the absentee improvement that we did, like a whole percentage. So the absenteeism was so high those days that meaningful education was minimal. So allow us either to meet the days or the hours would preserve instructional time, reduce the unnecessary spending and last-minute calendar change that disrupt families and staff. Okay, so we really these are our priorities that we lay out. There are two other things that are we are look forward to your partnership and support. One is the construction funding and maintenance, which you all know that the cost of construction has gone up 40% just since the pandemic. So we feel that as our school system is growing and our buildings aged, we look for your partnership support in terms of construction funding and maintenance. And also, as we understand the state facing a deficit of $1.4 billion, we are, if I can say from the heart, we are nervous, and we would like to know, any impact that local schools might feel. So thank you so much for the time tonight, and I will stay for the Q&A portion. Thank you.
Thank you, President Yang. And next, representing the City of Rockville, Linda Moran.
Good evening, Chair Kramer and Chair Polakovich-Carr. I'm Linda Moran, Associate City Manager of the City of Rockville. The Rockville Mayor and Council send their regrets for not being able to participate. This hearing conflicts with their Mayor and Council meeting this evening. And on behalf of the Mayor and Council, I thank you for the opportunity to share Rockville's 2026 state legislative priorities. We ask for your support for the Mayor and Council's 2026 session priorities and look forward to collaborating with the delegation to advance the following. In the priority area of education, school funding, and youth services, advocate for sufficient state funding for school construction projects and operations to support education from birth through community college. Advocate for Montgomery County to receive a fair share of funding from the state to cover the cost of implementing the blueprint for Maryland. Increase funding for youth programs, including Youth Service Bureau funding, out-of-school activities, and juvenile services for youth involved in repeat crimes who do not have access to restoration services support. In the priority area of Vision Zero and pedestrian master plan efforts, support Vision Zero efforts including comparative negligence laws for pedestrian safety, advocate for state highway administration to take responsibility for the maintenance of sidewalks and bike paths on state roads and provide dedicated state funding for such maintenance. Advocate for stop sign monitoring systems in school zones that would provide this authority to all municipalities, and to advocate for additional complete streets implementation along MD 355, Beers Mill Road, and all state roads with high numbers of crashes or fatalities. Advocate for legislation that would authorize the establishment of regional transportation authorities. In the priority area of climate action, support legislation aligned with Rockville's Climate Action Plan to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, prioritize equity, and build resiliency. In the priority area of strengthening tenant protections legislation, including advocate for just cause eviction legislation to protect tenants from unjust lease terminations as originally introduced in 2025, advocate for landlord-tenant residential leases fee disclosure legislation, including the disclosure of rent history broken out by year, and to advocate for legislation prohibiting a landlord from using certain algorithmic devices to determine the amount of rent to charge a residential tenant. In the priority area of infrastructure maintenance, preserve municipal highway user revenues that help maintain Rockville's transportation infrastructure. In the priority area of tax relief and revenue, support expanding the state homeowners' property tax credit for low and moderate income homeowners and individuals with disabilities. Support the Maryland Municipal League priority legislation that would modernize municipal revenue structures. In the priority area of senior services, support funding for enhanced senior services, including transportation, recreation wellness programs, and aging in place initiatives. And in the priority area of health and wellness, advocate in support of healthcare safety, of the healthcare safety net, and access to vaccines for all. We're also collaborating with the District 17 delegation to explore potential legislative bond initiatives for the following projects: the Twin Brook Park and Dogwood Park pedestrian bridge replacements, which would involve a $570,000 request from the state for each project. These projects support the mayor and council's priorities of equity and inclusion, as well as Vision Zero. The projects involve the design and construction of the replacement of steel truss pedestrian bridges, which provide access for residents to critical school and community facilities, and the Maddie J.T. Stepanek Park Gender Neutral Restroom Project. This would entail $150,000 in a state funding request, and this project supports the mayor and council's priorities on equity and inclusion. This project includes the design and construction of converting the storage space within the concession building into a single-user accessible restroom. It has been a pleasure to highlight the Rockville Mayor and Council's 2026 state legislative priorities, and we are excited to continue our partnership with the delegation in making a positive impact on the lives of Rockville's residents. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Hessler from the city, representing the city of Gaithersburg.
Thank you so much, and good evening, everyone. For the record, my name is Teresa Hessler, and I'm here this evening on behalf of the city of Gaithersburg. The city's mayor and council are being sworn in this evening and therefore could not attend, but they do send their hellos to the delegation, and we thank you for the opportunity to share the city's 2026 legislative priorities. First, the city is committed to continuing efforts to modernize municipal revenue streams. Last session, Gaithersburg supported efforts to authorize a modest admissions and amusement, or A&A tax, on on-premise food and beverage. While those bills did not advance, the underlying need remains. Cities need a diversified, sustainable revenue toolkit to keep pace with rising service costs without over-relying on property or income taxes. In 2026, we are supportive in concept of the Maryland Municipal League's focus on revenue modernization, and we welcome a collaborative approach, whether that be reintroducing limited A&A authority, commissioning a blue ribbon review, or advancing other targeted tools. The goal is simple: maintain service levels and protect homeowners through sensible, flexible options. The city's second priority is to keep commercial assessments current by allowing out-of-cycle adjustments and appeals. Under current law, local governments generally cannot initiate an out-of-cycle appeal to ESTAT, even when credible sales or income data show material appreciation. We're asking for a narrow, objective pathway that lets SSTAT adjust mid-cycle and would allow a county, the state, or a municipality to initiate when clear indicators show a substantial increase in value. For example, if a verified sale or SSTAT income worksheet demonstrates an increase of more than 20% over the current assessed value, SSTAT could adjust mid-cycle. That promotes fairness among taxpayers and aligns revenues with real market conditions rather than waiting up to 3 years for the triennial cycle. And finally, we respectfully request continued support for the new municipal complex at 12 South Summit Avenue and thank the delegation for their support in the past. This modern facility will right-size city operations and improve services for residents and businesses. We appreciate your partnership and we look forward to working together again this session. Thank you again for your time this evening and for your continued advocacy on behalf of the City of Gaithersburg.
Thank you. And our last witness for this panel is Mayor Searcy from City of Tacoma Park. Madam Mayor, you are unmuted, but I did not get any audio coming through.
Just make sure.
There we go.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you to the delegation for this opportunity. Again, my name is Talisha Searcy, and I'm the mayor of the City of Tacoma Park. Tacoma Park is a welcoming and diverse community with people from all over the world and many small businesses that call our city home. The City Council's priorities for 2026 center on protecting Tacoma Park from external threats and ensuring it remains a safe, inclusive community where everyone's needs are met. We're committed to the well-being of our residents, strengthening local government, and preserving the environment, delivering essential services, and expanding housing access. First, our top priority is to support residents who are especially vulnerable due to recent changes and uncertainties in federal policies. We are asking for your support of laws that protect renters, specifically good cause eviction. We also want to make sure families who rely on food programs like SNAP can get the help that they need, even as federal funding changes. We encourage the delegation to support ways to expand SNAP eligibility. Another important priority is to make sure people who need gender-affirming healthcare can get it through Medicaid, even if there are budget cuts at the federal level. We also want to keep our community safe and protect our immigrant neighbors. We ask for laws to prevent local police from working with ICE on federal immigration enforcement through the 287G program. We support state laws that make sure that immigration officers clearly show their identity and do not hide their faces or license plates, so everyone feels safe and know who is enforcing the law in their community. We want state laws to protect people's personal data from being used by ICE without a court order. Financial stability for our city is also important. You may hear a common theme. We support updates that would let cities like ours have more choices in raising monies, like local sales taxes, and protections of important funds like highway user revenues. We encourage the delegation to support legislation related to the Maryland Municipal League's priority to modernize municipal revenue structures. When it comes to transportation, which is also a priority, we support giving local governments the ability to lower speed limits in our neighborhoods without needing expensive studies. This will help us to keep our streets safer for everyone. We care deeply about the environment and the impact of climate change on the most vulnerable, and we support bringing back the RENEW Act, which would make polluters pay for the damage caused by climate change and help our state take action to protect the environment. Lastly, we are planning major projects to enhance our city. To accomplish this, we are seeking funding, support to upgrade the Metropolitan Branch Trail. This project aims to improve safety for biking and walking through, better lighting and safer crossings. It also is a pivotal connection between infrastructure work that's happening in DC and Montgomery County. We all recognize that we are living in unprecedented times marked by rapidly changing circumstances and extraordinary challenges that call on us to be resourceful and innovative. Now more than ever, we must come together to uphold the values of our state. And so thank you so much for your time and attention. Tacoma Park looks forward to working with each of you during this legislative session.
Thank you very much. And we'll go to questions here in a second. I do just want to note for members of the delegation, and I guess for the listening public too, we do have one more elected official, municipal official, who's going to be testifying a little later at their scheduling request. So no disrespect to the town of Somerset for coming later in the evening. All right, we do have a question. Delegate Kaufman.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me, Madam Chair?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. This is a question for President Yang. Madam President, can you talk a little bit more? You touched on it in your testimony about the changes you would like to see, and please keep it brief, but the changes you would like to see to the graduation requirements, because I personally think they need to be adjusted, because to illustrate a point to my colleagues, I haven't used algebra or geometry since the day I graduated from MCPS in 2006. So anyway, what can you go into a little more depth as to the kind of changes that the Board of Education would like to see to the graduation requirements?
Thank you. Thank you, Delegate Kaufman, for the question. What we are really seeking is asking the state to have a regular review of the graduation requirement to really make sure that the requirement does fit what a future-ready workforce needs. Because a major pandemic have happened, AI has now really deeply in our lives, and we found that maybe there are ways to modernize it. Now, a few pain points for us. Maryland require 22 graduation credit, and for a lot of our students, we have 6 periods a day, and some of our courses are double period. And a lot of our students might pursue a specific pathway or a CTE certificate. If they are interested in engineering, they might take Project Lead the Way, which is 5 courses. And that takes up 5 classes. It takes up 1 or 2 space each year. And that makes it really challenging to fit everything in. Also, in addition, our students who speak English as a second language, they will need to take English courses on top of everything else. And so it's challenging to say, hey, we would like everyone to learn financial literacy. Can that be a standalone classes for all students? So what we are really asking is have a regular checkup of the graduation requirement and the credit required for students. That's what we are really asking.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Madam Chair. That concludes my question.
Thank you. And I do not see any other raised hands from members of the delegation. So thank all the witnesses on this panel, and I'll turn it over to Senator Kramer to call the next panel.
Thank you for that, Chair Polakovich Carr. Our next 4 panelists are from the universities, the outstanding universities at Shady Grove. And kicking that off is going to be my friend and the outstanding Chancellor of the University of Maryland System, Chancellor Jay Perman. So, Chancellor, please.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair Kramer, for your graciousness. Chair Polakovich Carr, delegation members, thank you all for your consistent support. I'll refer to my written statement, which has much more detail than what I'll share here. I think we can all agree the time is ripe for innovation in higher education. And in my opinion, no one is modeling that innovation better than the universities at Shady Grove. As more Americans ask whether a degree is worth it, whether students can walk off our campuses and into the workplace fully ready to succeed, USG says yes. USG understands not only how to develop talent in a state and in a county demanding it, but how to connect talent development to workforce development, to economic development. The key to completing this loop is partnership. USG partners with an expansive network of local employers who ensure that a USG education is at every turn career connected and industry aligned, which explains why 85% of all USG graduates head into the workforce with significant out of classroom experience, internships, co-ops, clinical rotations. Employers aren't USG's only partners. 9 USM universities host the rigorous, high-demand programs this region urgently needs: biotechnology, life sciences, engineering, education, and so on. Meanwhile, USG itself lays in the wraparound student supports that remove obstacles to a degree. Together, here's what these partnerships yield. 79% of all USG students graduate within 4 years of transfer, and these are non-traditional students who might never have been college goers had there not been USG's convenient, affordable, supportive pathways. 83% of all USG graduates work in the region or attend graduate school. Across all programs, USG graduates out-earn their US peers, putting more tax dollars back into Maryland and driving the industries that fuel economic growth. USG, in summary, lives the university system's key strategic priorities: to put a USM education within reach of every Marylander, to prepare learners for success in the workplace, and to ensure our students have equitable access to the academic and career opportunities that pay off for them and their families and for the state they serve and enrich. I thank you for your support and for having me here.
Thank you very much, Chancellor. We appreciate having you as well. Next is Kevin Beverly, please.
Good evening, all. Thank you again, as Dr. Perman said, for having us here this evening. I'm Kevin Beverly, a former healthcare CEO and chair of the university's at Shady Grove's Board of Advisors. I've served on the board at USG for several years and served as the chair for the last 3 because I'm committed to advancing the differentiating vision of the USG, that is delivering accessible education at scale to drive economic development. It's not enough for a student to cross the finish line with a degree. USG focuses on connecting students to jobs and great careers aligned with industry sector demands and priorities. Today, the challenge for this work is twofold. One, the majority of students coming into higher education face many barriers that prevent them from accessing traditional campuses, yet they are the answer to our talent needs and a robust economic future. The second is the uncertain and dynamic economic conditions and changing talent needs that require faster, more flexible, more strategic industry-aligned approaches to talent development. Academia is notoriously slow and employers are not waiting around. However, USG has the right model to address both challenges. According to a Forbes article this fall addressing the future of work by Dr. Jason Wingard, he asserts in the article that corporations are assuming a greater responsibility for upskilling and reskilling while universities are trying to adapt. The article recognizes USG's unique and competitive advantage in serving students in a more fluid environment. The 80 programs from multiple institutions on one collaborative campus was described as innovative. It also described our student completion of internships, clinical rotations, as Dr. Perman spoke to, and applied learning before graduation, as assuring an greater employee alignment. The USG model that ensures students are career ready, that they are learning alongside employers, that they have wraparound support and high quality academic credentials is gaining traction among employees. You'll hear from Dr. Warren Christopher from Solidex campus state unequivocally that the workforce they need is the one that USG is focused on providing. Employees that are team players, critical thinkers, creative problem solvers, and leaders for their industries. Most importantly, the USG model results in 83% of graduates working or attending graduate school in the county, in our region, and our state. USG is truly a place where education meets economic development. It's the heart of access and affordability and has been since its inception. Chancellor Perriman acknowledges that USG is an asset to the university system and thus the state. Many of the students who have attended USG are determined and focused. They are successful. They are resilient. They're incredibly tenacious. You will hear from Mariama Cham, one of our county's best and brightest. If not for USG, she may not have been able to pursue or earn that bachelor's degree. And she's not alone. USG cannot tackle this alone. You, our legislative leaders, if you haven't already, should recognize that the majority of the workforce of our future is going to come through models like USG. Right now, we have the advantage. We are leading. Let's not waste it. My call to action is to create a strong, deep, and active partnership with all of academia and employers like Sodexo. This is how we win. It will not be accomplished if we remain disconnected from each other. It is essential that we do this work hand in hand. Thank you all for all the support you've given us over the past, and we look forward to support even in this challenging budgetary climate. So thank you again.
Thank you very much. And next up is Dr. Warren Christopher.
Hi, thank you so very much, Kevin. And thank you, Senator Cramer, Madam Chair, and the delegation for your support of the universities at Shady Grove throughout the years and their dedication to public service. Folks, I am Dr. Warren Christopher. I am the National Vice President for Sodexo Campus. We are a multinational company that is spread across the world with our largest footprint here in the United States with over 100,000 people as part of our business. Our responsibilities is to lead campus dining and food services across the U.S. I am also a retired colonel, combat veteran of 25 years, a former executive in federal government, and a former executive in higher education. My lifelong focus, both in the military and federal government, higher education, and Sodexo, I've learned the greatest asset of these institutions is its people and their leadership. The people are at the heart, the bloodline of these institutions. All need to be aligned and accountable with their own institution's mission and vision. It reminds me of this story of JFK at NASA in 1961. Went to visit 1961 at NASA, and JFK, amongst others, he ran into the custodian, and he asked the custodian, "What do you do for us around here?" And the custodian replied, "Mr. President, I help put people on the moon." It was that profound. It was that deep. It was that alignment that custodian saw that his contributions were in line and aligned with putting people on the moon. I visit and work with institutions of higher learning on campuses every day throughout this country, all of them doing great things, innovative things for our young people to provide access for all to relevant education. I am grateful all the day, each day, for the work that I see our students doing. The people we need are agile, as Kevin said. They are analytical and critical thinkers. They are creative problem solvers. They are productive, multidisciplinary teams. We need them to be ready on day one to succeed in our multinational company and our global company. I am hopeful for our future, seeing these students engage on campuses all across the country. However, unique among them is the universities at Shady Grove, differentiated by who they include rather than who they exclude. I recall during my time in the military, the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Admiral Mullen, once said, "Ducks pick ducks." Well, USG are picking ravens. They are picking eagles. They are picking more than just ducks, not only in the presentation of our students to meet the needs, but focusing on internal career readiness and competencies. USG focus providing with all the employees, students' journeys to a career, that is what drew me in. As employer, as a differentiator, USG has it right. raised on my family farm. My grandmother often told me, son, you got to put the feet down so the sheep can get it. Well, USG must have unknowingly channeled my grandma. They are providing tremendous access and opportunity so our students can get it.
Dr.
Strong
Christopher,
partnerships.
I'll ask that you please wrap things up, please.
Yes, sir. Strong partnerships like USG is what we are made of. That is what we do every day to make sure that our students have access and opportunity. Thank you very much for your time. I hope that you will continue to support because your leadership is desperately needed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And the last person speaking on USG's behalf this evening, Mariama Tim, please.
Yes. Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of Montgomery County Delegation. My name is Mariama bint Rasul Cham. I am a senior in the Information Science program at the universities at Shady Grove, studying through the University of Maryland College of Information Studies. I began my higher education journey as a middle college student, part of an early college program that allowed me to earn both my high school diploma and my associate's degree at the same time. My associate's degree classes were conferred by Montgomery College, and I was able to take these college courses from Montgomery College faculty during the school day. Montgomery College was a great partner in accelerating my educational goals while in high school. My associate's degree was conferred just this past year. That experience truly changed the trajectory of my life. It helped me build the confidence and academic foundation to transition into a 4-year degree much earlier than most students my age. It also showed me the power of access and how programs like Middle College and institutions like USG can accelerate opportunities and create clear, affordable pathways towards a career. At USG, I found more than a campus. I found a community that believes in students like me, first generation, local, and ambitious, who just need the chance to turn potential into purpose. Through scholarships, mentorships, and partnerships with local employers, I've been able to grow academically and professionally. I currently serve as a communication fellow, a teaching assistant, and a student assistant in the executive director's office, where I help support initiatives that connect students to internship, leadership roles, and career pathways right here in Montgomery County. Like so many of my peers, I've seen how USG's unique model, bringing 9 universities together in one location, creates a bridge between education and the workforce. Students can earn degrees from Maryland's top universities close to home while gaining direct exposure to the industry shaping our very region. Because of USG, I've learned that innovation isn't just about technology. It's about access. It's about transforming how we prepare students for careers, how we align education with employer needs, and how we create opportunities that lift entire communities. I'm also a recipient of the Montgomery County Business Hall of Fame Scholarship, and I can say with complete sincerity that scholarships like these change lives. They remove financial barriers and open doors for students who are ready to work hard but need that extra support to get there. Thank you to each of you in the delegation that have provided your legislative scholarships to support my fellow USG students. So tonight, I want to thank you. Thank you for your continued support of USG and for recognizing how powerful this partnership is between our state, our educators, and our local employers. When you invest in USG, you invest in Maryland's future workforce, in equity, and in the dreams of students like me who are ready to lead and give back to the community that raised us. Thank you for believing in us, for investing in our education, and for helping build a stronger Montgomery County, one student at a time. Thank you so much for your time.
Outstanding. Thank you for that.
Outstanding.
Very
Thank you.
nice.
Thank you.
All right, our next 4 speakers are going to be speaking on behalf of Montgomery College. And the first of those, please, Gloria Aparicio Blackwell.
Good evening. Yes, Mariana, that's exactly what we're here for. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Gloria Aparicio Blackwell. I am the chair of the Montgomery College Board of Trustees. And on behalf of the trustees, I say muchísimas gracias. Thank you so much. Because of you, MCs, more than 46,000 students like Mariama can grab opportunity through credentials of economic value and become the homegrown talent Maryland needs. Good news, this year credit enrollment grew by 6% over last year, making it the 3rd year of annual growth. As a result, we need your continued support for the CADE funding formula, as well as support for capital dollars. Libraries remain integral to the student success, yet the library at our largest campus is out of date and needs renovation to best serve our students. Please support construction funds of $5.6 million. It is also time to completely modernize the theater art building, an important academic building. In fact, programs in this building have turned out alumni who have worked as directors, actors, and scene builders in venues from the Silver Spring stage to the Kennedy Center. However, this building was built in 1965. Much of this inner working are well beyond the useful life. Notably, as our enrollment have increased, demand for courses only housed in the theater art has increased too. That should be no surprise since the DMV region is ranked nationally as the top-tier theater community. As a result, our efforts to produce workers for this industry, for the industry sector, are not just a contribution to the cultural scene, but as an economic imperative. So please support the $4.2 million to begin the design process. The college also needs your continued support, continued commitment to the CADE formula. This fund helps ensure the college can deliver an affordable, high-quality post-secondary education. As an MC alum, I also live in District 17, Ghost District 17, I truly know the value of your support. Please help to continue to deliver our mission to unlock potentials and transform lives. All of you are doing miracles, and please do it because it's so needed for the county, for the state, and for all of here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And our next speaker is Harish Nair.
Yes, thank you, Senator Kramer. Good evening, members of the Montgomery County delegation. It is an honor to speak with you tonight. My name is Harish Nair, and I'm a computer science major and a senator at large in the Montgomery College Rockville Campus Student Government Association. I'm here to thank you for your support of Montgomery College and ask for your continued support to keep tuition affordable and renovate the Rockville Campus Library. I came to the United States from Malaysia in August 2022, after my dad received a job here. Starting over in a new country was both exciting and challenging, but Montgomery College quickly became a place where I felt supported and welcomed. Getting involved in student government allowed me to be active in campus life and give back to the student community. In addition to being a student and a senator, I also work as a barista at the Macklin Business Institute Cafe on campus. Working while studying has taught me how to manage my time and stay connected with students from all walks of life. That's what I love most about Montgomery College. It's a community where everyone belongs, no matter their background or story. The Ackerman STEM Learning Center and the Rockville Campus Library have helped me succeed academically. The library has especially been a constant support for me. It stays open late, and I often stay there to finish assignments or study quietly after classes. I work better on campus than at home, and the library has given me that space to focus and to succeed. The Rockville Campus Library is a vital resource for students, but it's showing its age. There aren't enough group spaces for collaboration, and there are not enough outlets for students to use for electronics to complete their homework. With students depending on laptops or phones for nearly every class, these missing plugs make studying difficult. A renovated, more modern library would give students a space that reflects the quality of the education they're receiving, one that's collaborative, connected, and built for today's learners. On behalf of all Montgomery College Rockville campus students, thank you again for your ongoing support of our college. I respectfully ask for your continued investment in our facilities, especially the Rockville Library renovation, so students like me can continue to learn, grow, and give back to the community we proudly call home. Thank you.
Thank you. Outstanding, Harish. Thank you for that. And our next speaker is Shaquille Stewart, please.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good evening. Look at that. I just got off work. So sorry. Good evening, members of the Montgomery delegation. My name is Shaquille Stewart. I am a Montgomery County native, as well as the former executive director of Silver Spring Stage, and a proud Montgomery College alumnus. I want to say thank you all for your support of MC. Please continue to support my alma mater. This place changed my life. So many people who look like me, their lives, by keeping tuition affordable and funding the renovate. And I'd like if you could fund the renovation of the Theater Arts Building on Rockville campus. Just a little quick spark notes about me. My entire family is from Montgomery County. We all went to Einstein High School, and I found out that I wanted to be an actor there. I got my degree in theater. I'm a professional actor in addition to all the things I do. But much like me, a lot of my colleagues, peers, I think there's another actor on here who's going to talk to y'all. But Kenyatta Rogers, Sasha Olenek, so many people actually working and teaching at MC. They're professionally active in the theater community in the city and across the nation, really. We're talking about Arena, Kennedy Center, even Broadway. I wouldn't just say that MC's Performing Arts program welcomed me. It prepared me for a successful career. I'm in several plays right now. I'm booked halfway through the next year. And, you know, I've had work as a teacher, and I wouldn't have done it without these teachers and their experience. And, you know, because of them, I've built a successful career as a director. I've been on tour. I've taught middle school, high school, even, you know, women's shelters, all kinds of things. And none of this would have happened without MC, none of these theaters. So I'm here today to ask you all to provide funding to renovate the Theater Arts Building, where MC's Performing Arts students learn the skills they need to succeed as professionals in the theater world. I can attest to that. It's been real leaky. There's been pests, there's been rodents. And I mean, I've been out of college for almost 11 years now, and it's been like that. So at this stage, I performed in the summer dinner theater program. Students struggle to find spaces to rehearse between classes. And I think that was just something that they would appreciate. Just also not even just the classes and the renovations, but the ability to work side by side with these systems and these the faculty, the directors, the sound technicians. It just creates a good professional development space for our students. And lastly, I just want to say I'm proud, so proud to be an MC college graduate. I'm proud of you guys for supporting MC, and I'm proud to ask you to please support funding for the Theater Arts Building, where the future of performing artists of our region can learn their craft and succeed. Thank you so much. Appreciate this time.
Thank you very much, Shaquille. Appreciate your time, and thanks for being here tonight. Okay, our final speaker from Montgomery College this evening, Camille Linares, are you with us?
Hi, yes, I am. Come on, Shaq. Thank you all. Thank you all for having me tonight. Good evening, members of the Community College, Montgomery College delegation. I'm Camilo Linares. I'm a Silver Spring resident and a professional actor and a Montgomery College Performing Arts alumnus. I'm honored to thank you for your support of Montgomery College, and I'm here to ask you for your continued support. Specifically, please support funding for the MC to renovate the Theater Arts Building on the Rockville campus. My story began in South America. I was born in Bogotá, Colombia, and moved to Montgomery County when I was 5 years old. I graduated from Rockville High School, then enrolled at Montgomery College, following in one of my older sister's footsteps. She got her degree in hospitality management, and now she's director of housekeeping at this fancy hotel here somewhere. And MC welcomed me as an undocumented resident. It gave me a path to a career. Initially, I enrolled in the criminal justice program because I wanted to become a police officer. And somebody suggested that I try acting. I thought it would lead to me becoming an undercover detective. So I took the acting class and I never looked back. I don't know what else to do at this point. I found my passion. After graduating from MC, I transferred to the British American Drama Academy in Oxford at the suggestion of one of my professors. And I received an amazing education and skills from Montgomery College and the Academy. Today, I'm a U.S. citizen and I have a successful career in our region's theater industry. I've performed and taught in many venues, including the Kennedy Center, Gala Hispanic Theater, Shakespeare Theater, Roundhouse Theater, just to name a few. Through Imagination Stage, I've led theater workshops for Montgomery County Public Schools, and through National Institutes of Health, I have performed for hospitalized children. MC's Performing Arts program is top-notch. The professors are talented performers and gifted teachers. It was helpful that most of my professors were working actors, and I still go to them for advice and for help with anything. With that said, the Theater Arts Building needs attention. Students need to learn in environments that are similar to the stages where they will be working as professionals, whether as actors, lighting technicians, set designers, producers, or costume designers. There's many departments that go into theater and everything you see on screen. The Theater Arts Building is old and needs some updating. Students need a space that can accommodate up-to-date lighting and sound technology. They need more classrooms and labs to practice and hone their skills in between classes and performances. They need a stage that isn't damaged by water damage due to the building leaking. They need a renovated theater arts building so they can step into the performing arts workforce ready to be successful. I can't say enough about Montgomery College's role in my life. MC helped me fall in love with the theater. I certainly gained acting skills, but MC definitely gave me a safe space, and MC is the place to be. So please, thank you.
Thank you, Camille. Appreciate your being here this evening. That concludes this panel. Do we have any questions from legislators? Going once, going twice, I see none. So my thanks to everyone who was on this panel and shared your thoughts with us this evening. And I'll turn it back to Chair Polakovich Carr.
Thank you, Chair Kramer. And our next panel is transportation focused. So we will call up from WMATA, Randy Clark, Clark Mercer, Debbie Jarvis, as well as Jack McDougall and Stuart Schwartz.
Yes, is that me, Chair, to start?
Yes, you're good to go.
It is great. Thank you to both chairs and the entire Montgomery delegation to be with you tonight. For those I've not met, I'm Randy Clark. I'm the General Manager and CEO here at Metro. Just honored to be with you all and great to hear some stories from other very important institutions here in the Maryland region. I'm also joined by board member Debbie Jarvis, who's going to, I think, speak just after I do as well. It's really good timing. I'm here with you all today. Today, the Metro Board and the Council of Government Board voted in support of a kind of historic vision to modernize and enhance the region's transit network. It's known as DMV Moves. Some of you hopefully are familiar with that activity. It's been going on for about a year and a half. Metro really drives our regional economy. 30% of the tax base from our region is derived from 3% of the land that is within a half a mile of Metro. And a good example of that in Maryland is the Metro Red Line moves more people than the combined ridership or flyership, if you will, of BWI and National Airport combined every day. So 160,000 people use the Red Line alone every day, give or take. So it really drives the economic activity, including access to some of the education that we were just discussing. Want to mention in 2018, this delegation was instrumental in securing the dedicated funding that Metro received. And obviously, that is part of why we're in the great shape that we're in today. I want to thank, I see Chair Corman is on here. I want to thank him for his leadership, Senator Feldman for his leadership as well. A lot of the success of Metro was due to that dedicated funding. We just won the Top Transit Agency in the United States award, and we're really proud of that. But that funding was not indexed at that time, and we've lost significant purchasing power since then. Metro has led the country in ridership growth for 54 straight months. We have about a 90% on-time performance, which is very significant change than over years ago. So that reliability that people can count on. Back to automatic train control operations, so our trains are actually faster and safer than they've been in decades. And on bus, we provide over 400,000 people with good quality bus service here in the region on a daily basis. Safety is always critical of Metro. Currently, we're in an 8-year low of crime and on pace for the lowest crime year we've ever had at Metro. And we continue to work heavily on fair enforcement to make sure that we're collecting all of the necessary revenue to fund this system. But we've seen significant improvements around safety, frequency, and reliability. Looking to the future, the DMV Moves initiative is really key. It really brings regional transit leaders, community organizers, elected officials all together. Like I mentioned, it's been about an 18-month process. That action today, really the idea here is commits our region to modernizing the Metro rail system. replacing our legacy signaling system specifically. It'd be kind of a similar to air traffic control. We have parts of our signaling system that are from the late 60s, early 70s. While it is still working, it is becoming very unreliable on a daily basis. And that could lead to long-term reliability and safety challenges, and we clearly don't want to fall apart and go backwards. Lastly, it's the overall funding is about $460 million. Maryland's component of that is about 150. And I just wanted to really emphasize that, we have about 9,000 Metro employees live in Maryland, and your support in this upcoming session is beyond critical and super appreciated to make sure that this incredible regional asset keeps driving the Maryland and regional economy. So again, thank you for all of your ongoing support, and we welcome you to come visit Metro and any answers we can provide. Thank you.
Thank you. Why don't we go to Ms. Jarvis next, and then we'll go to Mr. Mercer.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Happy to join you here. Thank you, Randy. And thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Debbie Lockhart Jarvis, and I am a proud board member for the Washington Metropolitan Area Transportation Authority, Metro. I am proud to speak to the importance of Metro for the region. Metro is in Montgomery County's DNA. Montgomery County is home to 12 Metro rail stations, which are anchors for businesses, housing developments, and rich and vibrant communities. Our county is home to hundreds of Metro bus stops and dozens of bus routes which help stitch together the county's suburbs and urban cores. Metro serves our hospitals, schools, and commercial centers, and connects to our local transit systems, MARC, Ride-On, and Prince George's County Transit, supporting travel across our region and state, and it connects to the two of our region's airports, allowing Marylanders to travel anywhere in the world. Over 1,200 of Metro's 13,000 staff live in Montgomery County, and another 8,000 live in Maryland, providing solid career pathways for our fellow residents. Metro moves Montgomery County, and Montgomery County moves Metro. From fostering transit-oriented communities to keeping cars off our roadways, Montgomery County is livable and desirable in large part because of Metro. Now, the annual funds that this delegation has supported for Metro have enabled the excellent rail, bus, and paratransit service that Metro provides, as well as major development projects and transform our communities, such as the new mixed-use development of North Bethesda Station, which will transform the North Bethesda site into a life sciences anchored development that will include a UMD research center, an incubator space, retail, and residential buildings. Then there's the new development at Grosvenor's Strathmore Station, a development that is already transforming the area into an arts-focused residential community with public spaces for community gatherings, festivals, plays, play area, and gardens. The project at Twinbrook Station, which will transform a surface parking lot into transit plaza, complete with space for residential and commercial uses. Now, these developments are good for Metro. They increase ridership by bringing transit, housing, jobs, and commercial districts together. But they're also good for the state and the county and help realize the Maryland State Plan goal of using transit-oriented development to bolster the state's economy and deliver much-needed housing. They bring in tax revenue, supply desperately needed housing, and make our communities more vibrant, accessible, and safe. But projects such as these are contingent on a reliable Metro system and the sustained funding from Maryland, the District, Virginia, and the federal government. Randy had mentioned since 2018, Metro has demonstrated that when its capital program is funded securely, the region benefits. With this in mind, I urge this delegation to pursue Maryland's share of the additional funding identified in DMV Moves to keep Metro working for Montgomery County and the region. The last thing that I will say is that I actually represent Montgomery County within the Washington Suburban Transit Commission. I'm also a commissioner there as well. I thank you for your time this evening. And now to Clark Mercer.
Yes, please.
Hi, thank you. Clark Mercer, the director at the Council of Governments. I think you all are familiar with the Council of Governments, but we represent and work with 24 local governments in and around the district, including Montgomery County. If our footprint were its own state, it'd be about 6 million folks. It'd be the most educated state in the country, the most diverse state in the country, and 14th in the country in GDP. And I worked with my counterpart in Annapolis back in 2018 and followed the great work of many in this delegation securing the capital fund in 2018. I was the governor's chief of staff for 8 years in Richmond. And I wish I had the view then that I do now, how important it is for this region to work together. It's very much sometimes in Annapolis and Richmond a zero-sum game at the state level. I would offer that suburban Maryland and Northern Virginia are very similar in that they both encompass about 45% of their state's GDP. And oftentimes are sending more to the state capital than they are getting back. The new Mr. Zucker, if you could please mute yourself.
Yeah, Laura's not on.
Won't try to talk over him, but I will keep going. The new money that Randy Clark was mentioning, that is money that would go to state of good repair for Metro. Without it, their debt capacity will be exhausted by FY 2029. And for the last 18 months, dozens and dozens of groups in the region have been working to look over those numbers. They started at a much higher number. The goal was to get sustainable, predictable funding that's bondable for Metro, and that's a revolving bond. So those bonds can be issued and paid off and then issued again. So we're not back here in 5 years talking about this capital cliff that WMATA faces. Jack McDougall will speak to you from the Board of Trade. He brought together the Community Partners Group, which was over 30 groups, including the Montgomery Chamber, all of your chambers in the region, Greater Washington Partnership, your environmental groups, your labor unions, and then there was a government partners group with all the CAOs in the region, Montgomery Ride-On, and 10 other bus transit providers in the region, all of your Department of Transportation's DDOT, MDOT, VDOT. And I would just say that the numbers that Mr. Clark mentioned, there's a Senate Joint Committee in Virginia that met for the past year, SJ 28. Delegate Mark Sickles and Senator Adam Ebbin right now are working on legislation for the governor-elect's upcoming first session and 2-year budget that the General Assembly will have. Chairman Phil Mendelson and Charles Allen on DC City Council that sit on COG's board are working with Kevin Donahue, the mayor's CAO, to effectuate the mayor's upcoming budget to meet the district share of that number. And certainly very grateful to all of you on this call and have worked closely with Delegate Corman and others to make sure that Maryland's in a strong position, understanding that it is a tough budget environment across the region, but this is an economic engine for the region as we look to attract and retain companies. I will say just in the past couple of months, we were named the #1 region in the country for traffic, and it is hard to attract new businesses, new employers to this region if we can't move folks around. It's about transportation for all. It's about freedom. It's about equity. It's about environment, meeting our environmental goals, and it's about growing the economy. So thank you for all that you do. I look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Mr. McDougall.
Oh, great. Thanks. Good evening, everyone. And thanks for the opportunity to give some comments. My name is Jack McDougall. I'm the president and CEO of the Greater Washington Board of Trade. As Clark just mentioned, and is a real concern to us, Greater Washington remains one of the most congested regions in the country. That's a list we don't want to be on. And this challenge is amplified by the ongoing transformation of the federal government, as well as the rise of disruptive technologies. And so when we look at all these forces together, they're really reshaping our economy and our communities. And it's accelerating the need for a transit system that's built for a new digital, fast-moving world. And if we don't respond proactively, congestion and economic fragmentation across our region will only deepen. As has been mentioned, we recognize that all the jurisdictions across our region, they're facing, major challenges and competing priorities. But really, we still need to invest boldly in transit if we want to stay competitive, attract talent, attract capital, and drive inclusive growth. The cost of inaction is really steep. We know that gridlock drains billions in productivity, constrains our business expansion, and weakens our ability to compete for innovation and investment. And those are real concerns with everything that's going on. As Clark mentioned, for the past 18 months, I chaired the Community Stakeholders Advisory Committee for DMV Moves. We brought together business, labor, public interest organizations across the region. I know it's shocking that we didn't always see eye to eye on every issue, but we certainly did agree on the importance of transit, as well as the two key recommendations that came out of that both Randy and Clark mentioned around a regional commitment to dedicated capital funding, as well as a regional bus strategy that would begin to align service standards, fares, corridor planning, all again to give us a world-class transit system across the region. So together, these recommendations form the backbone of a modern transit strategy. It'll drive economic growth, regional connectivity, and if we fail to act, we really do miss a once-in-a-generation opportunity to create a more connected, competitive, and inclusive future for Greater Washington. So one thing just to keep in mind is wherever transit is strong and has been mentioned here, economic vitality follows, and we need that now more than ever. And so with that, thank you very much.
Thank you. And last on this panel, Mr. Schwartz.
Thank you, senators and delegates, for the opportunity to speak and testify this evening. My name is Stuart Schwartz. I'm the executive director of the Coalition for Smarter Growth. We're a 28-year-old organization and a leading voice for walkable, inclusive, transit-oriented communities as the most sustainable and equitable way for the DC region and the state of Maryland to grow. Our staff includes Carrie Kasicki in Montgomery, Cheryl Court in Prince George's, and Bill Pugh working on state transportation. We served on DMV Moves and the Bus Transformation Project. We've supported millions of square feet of development and tens of thousands of housing units at metro stations, including Bethesda, Silver Spring, Wheaton, Grosvenor, Twin Brook, and White Flint. Transit and TOD are critical to the economic competitiveness of Montgomery and the state. Every week, the Business Journal notes yet another large company relocating within the region or across the country to offices at our metro stations. Our essential workers depend on Metrobus, local bus, and Metro Rail to get to work and support our communities. Next generation professionals strongly prefer living near frequent transit where they can live car-free or car-light. Combined housing and transportation costs are much lower near transit, especially when we're concerned about affordability and the crisis that we face today. Transit with TOD increases transit ridership, walking and biking trips, and reduces driving demand, helping our roadways. Under the leadership of Randy Clark and the board, Metro's increased frequency and reliability while cutting costs and winning overwhelming satisfaction and growing ridership faster than any other American transit system, to the envy of every other region, and none of them are allowed to steal Randy from us. The continued success of WMATA and its continued modernization depends on sustained funding from Maryland, Virginia, DC, and the federal government. So we strongly support the additional funding for WMATA endorsed by the COG and WMATA boards today, and urge you to prioritize sustained and secure funding for WMATA and transit. We also ask you to support state legislation to accelerate TOD on public and private land at Metro, Purple Line, and MARC stations, and to support the Transportation and Climate Alignment Act. Thank you for your public service and hard work.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, any questions for witnesses on this panel? Not seeing any hands. Thank you all, and I'll turn it over to you, Chair Kramer.
Thank you. And starting off now, we have Councilmember Khanna from the town of Somerset. Are you with us, Councilmember?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening. There has been much discussion amongst Maryland's political leadership and in the media on the state's budget challenges. And in the coming year, you face difficult choices in cutting spending and raising revenue. Tonight, however, I would like to focus on the need for longer-term solutions that would lead to a more dynamic and diversified state economy. Maryland had already seen an ebbing of private sector activity before the unprecedented federal employment and budget cuts of 2025. With the federal cuts, stimulative steps are now essential to grow Maryland's tax base, enhance its competitiveness, and achieve more inclusive prosperity. I believe that Maryland can do so by seizing opportunities to rebrand itself as a vibrant, high-tech, human capital-rich location for entrepreneurship and leadership in science and technology innovation. Therefore, it should be a priority of the legislative agenda in 2026 to boost entrepreneurship within small, independent businesses, which are an essential pathway to middle-income jobs, and to spur the innovation economy of tomorrow. I would propose legislative action around 3 pillars of growth. First, creating a strong investment climate in Maryland. A useful first step might be to establish a regulatory reform commission consisting of representatives from small businesses and corporations with a 6-month mandate to recommend reforms that would make Maryland more competitive, with the specific objective of improving the state's rankings on the cost of doing business. Another action could be to instill and benchmark a culture of superior customer service and responsiveness to business within the state's executive departments by, for example, requiring performance metrics. The second pillar is strengthening the ecosystem for innovation. A simple step could be to develop an innovation voucher program, which many other states have adopted, to provide grants for small businesses to purchase research and development services and advice from Maryland-based higher education and research institutions. The state could also develop a program to increase the number of startups that emerge from Maryland's 4 top-tier R1 research universities and to accelerate technology breakthroughs into the marketplace. Virginia has already adopted such an approach to fast-track licenses for startups and promoting private sector collaboration with its universities to commercialize their research and development. The third pillar is fostering the workforce that is needed for the innovation economy. Other speakers before me have spoken about the role that our education institutions have in this space. But I believe what's needed is a statewide, coherent program for education and training collaboration between the public school systems, universities and community colleges, and business and labor groups to provide an entry-level workforce that meets industry needs through more certification, vocational training, apprenticeships, and STEM academic programs. This could include, for example, scaling up and replicating Montgomery County's Bio Bootcamp and Can Code programs. It would also include advancing AI readiness, starting by making available widespread AI fluency exposure for all workers, young and old. I'm sure there are many other ideas, but I will close by noting recent reports by the Brookings Institutions, which show that the federal cuts are impacting Montgomery County worse than anywhere else in the DMV. Yet at the same time, we are also an engine of Maryland's economy. This makes it doubly important for Montgomery County's delegation to introduce a package of bills that would collectively aim to increase venture capital raised and entrepreneurial activity, such as business formation, private sector employment growth, patents, and initial public offerings in Maryland. Only with such a focus will we have a chance of breaking the cycle of structural deficits and painful fiscal choices. And given the gathering clouds, this must be done as a matter of urgency in the next legislative session. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. And now, speaking on behalf of the Montgomery County Community Action Board, we have Timothy Robinson.
Good evening. My name is Timothy Robinson, and I'm the Vice Chair of the Montgomery County Community Action Board. Our board advocates on behalf of the county's economically disadvantaged community members and serves as the governing body for the Community Action Agency, the county's federally designated anti-poverty agency, and the county's Head Start program. Thank you for the opportunity to share the board's priorities with you this evening. I want to start by thanking the delegation for your ongoing support of programs and policies that help county residents move forward toward the self-sufficiency standards. We also want to thank Delegates Wilkins, Moon, Palakovich Carr, who joined us at a site visit at our Tacoma East Silver Spring Community Action Agency over the summer, and we look forward to connecting with the full delegation throughout the year. Our first priority is the expansion of the Community Action Fund. We were thrilled to see the passage of the legislation that created the Community Action Fund. We joined the Maryland Community Action Partnership in requesting that the fund remain a line item on the state budget and that the additional funding be added. Expansion of the fund will allow community action agencies to reach more people, reduce wait lists, and support staffing. In 2023, community action agencies served over 200,000 Marylanders with housing, food, and nutrition programs and other critical services. Our VITA program served over 2,000 households last year with free tax impacts of 7.7 million last year. The Test Center, a walk-in center in the Long Branch community of our navigation team, connects residents with a wide range of services and programs serving about 200 households each month. And the tests outreach 200 to 300 monthly in our navigation. Our board oversees the successful advocacy training program called the Community Advocacy Institute with over 167 graduates. And I want to thank Delegate Wilkins for participating in our first workshop this month. All of this work is greatly benefited from additional state support. We ask for your support for the expansion of the Community Action Fund. Our next priority is the needs of our immigrant community. We continue to hear from agency staff, partners, and directly from participants in the CAI that many of our immigrant communities are living in fear. We ask that the delegation do everything in your power to pass legislation that protects members of the immigrant community and helps people feel more comfortable accessing services. Our next priority is the expansion of state earned income tax credit and child tax credit. The Community Action Agency's VITA program sees firsthand how this affects us. We ask that your delegation continue to support the Maryland EITC and the child tax credit and expand eligibility for both critical tax credits. I thank you for the opportunity to share this evening our board's priorities, and we look forward to working with the delegation throughout the legislative session.
Thank you very much. And our final speaker on this panel on behalf of the Montgomery County Commission for Women is Elizabeth Richards.
Hi, good evening, and thank you, everyone. The Montgomery County Commission for Women has 9 priority bills for the 2026 General Assembly session, many of them being championed by members here tonight as well. Our first priority bill is Delegate Lopez's Maryland Caregiver Employment Protection Act, which would expand the anti-discrimination employment protection to include caregivers. Our second priority bill is the Prescription Privacy Protection Act for abortion medication. This is to shield prescribers and their patients with the information that's on the prescription medication labels. The third priority bill we have for the upcoming session is the feasibility study on direct stipends to caregivers, sponsored in the House by Delegate Wims. We really want to point out too, the lead group on this bill is the Montgomery County Commission on Aging. So we're hoping for really strong support from the entire delegation on the feasibility study on direct stipends to caregivers. The fourth priority for the Montgomery County Commission for Women is the course debt bill. Many times we find abusers who will take out like credit cards in their victims' names and create debt and use that as another ways of power and control over the person they're victimizing. And that person is then on the hook for that debt. This bill would correct that and then move that debt where it belongs, on the perpetrator themselves. The fifth priority bill for the Montgomery County Commission for Women for next year is the Stop Silencing Survivors Act. And we thank Senator Love for sponsoring this act again in the House. This bill would help create protections for survivors of sexual assault from being sued for defamation from their perpetrators. And that's something we see a lot in higher education, and we would love to see this Stop Silencing Survivors pass this upcoming session. Our sixth priority is the Family and Law Enforcement Protection Act. Montgomery County is known for having pretty much the gold standard within the state for how firearms are surrendered when a protection order is in place. But unfortunately, that process is not standardized across the state. This bill would seek to actually standardize that timeline and that process for relinquishing a weapon when there is a protection order in place. Our seventh priority is the Other one sponsored by a delegate from Montgomery County, the timing of hearings between temporary protective orders and final protective orders and relief for financial loss. Currently, there's 7 days between the temporary and protective order hearing and the final protective order hearing. The number one thing that advocates have heard is increasing that to about 14 days, which would put Maryland on par more with averages across the other states in the nation, would have an outsized impact and allow the families, particularly women and their children, to cope better. Our 8th priority is the Birth Certificate Modernization Act, which would just allow individuals to make sure their birth certificate matches their gender identity. And finally, our 9th priority is the Mount Cooper Pre-Release Act, sponsored by Delegate Crutchfield. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. And that concludes this panel. Are there any questions from the delegation for any one of those individuals who spoke on this panel? I see none. So I'll give it back to Chair Polakovich-Carr. And as I do so, I'll note that going forward, please, speakers will have 2 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair Kramer, for that reminder. And before we go to the next panel, I do just want to flag for folks who are in the waiting room, please make sure that your name is your full name so that we know who to admit. Right now, we do have someone who's showing up as just a phone number, so we will not know who to call when we get to you. So please find a way to rename yourself through Zoom. And if you're having technical issues with that, you can send our delegation administrator or myself an email, and we can help you get that sorted out while we go through our next panel of witnesses. But they are all here, so I will call them. We are starting with Denise Gilmore. Please go ahead. Oh, you are still muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Denise Gilmore, the Legislative and Political Director for AFSCME Maryland Council 3. I'm really glad to be here tonight on behalf of 50,000 public servants who keep Maryland running every single day, whether in our state and local governments, public schools, colleges, cultural institutions, and so many other places. First, I want to thank the entire Montgomery County delegation for your support last session in passing the Davis-Martinez Public Employee Safety and Health Act. Because of that bill, Brother Martinez's legacy will live on in every injury we prevent and every worker we keep safe. And thank you, Senator Kramer, for sponsoring that bill. Now, while we're watching the Trump administration and Project 2025 try to dismantle the civil service and weaken unions, here in Maryland, we're determined to choose a different path. Next year, we are focused on strengthening and growing our unions, because when workers have strong collective bargaining rights, income inequality goes down and the middle class grows. We've seen that again and again. That means passing binding arbitration so state employees can have fair contract negotiations. It means extending collective bargaining rights to public workers who still don't have them. And it means supporting a budget that invests in public services over prioritizing them, or privatizing them, excuse me. I also want to give a special thank you to Delegate Merrick North and Senator Kramer again for working with us on reforms to WSSC's disciplinary procedures this year. That work really matters to our members who show up there every day and ensure that Montgomery County has safe, clean water to drink. You all have a lot to think about heading into session, from redistricting and protecting our democracy to tackling affordability. We want to thank you for choosing public service as well. Our members are your partners in this work. We look forward to working with you in Annapolis. Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you. And next is Cynthia Rubenstein.
Good evening to the delegation. Thank you for having us tonight. WDC is otherwise known as the Montgomery County Women's Democratic Club. WDC supports ranked choice voting, special elections to fill delegation vacancies, curbside voting, open primaries, and expanded public financing of campaigns. We will support legislation to enable mid-cycle redistricting if the Redistricting Advisory Commission recommends it. WDC supports the Off-Duty Civic Protection Act with sponsors Delegate Leslie Lopez and Senator Jeff Waldstreicher. We advocate for workers' rights, supporting legislation to enable unionization of employees, including graduate students, at all state universities. WDC looks for legislation addressing the root causes of student chronic absence, including expanding access to evidence-based interventions like multi-tiered systems of support, functional behavior assessments, and culturally competent learning approaches. We urge stronger environmental action addressing PFAS, the Bottle Bill, as well as Renew and the Cherish Act. WDC supports completion of a statewide data center study to address concerns about increasing ratepayer costs and increase transparency in state regulatory review processes. We urge swift passage of a 287G ban, increased data privacy protections for immigrants seeking services, enhanced protection of protected spaces, and limiting law enforcement use of face masks and balaclavas. We will advocate for the coerced debt bill, the Family and Law Enforcement Protection Act, and caregiver stipend feasibility study. In closing, WDC supports moving the proposed Women's Pre-Release Center out of the Baltimore pretrial and detention complex and increasing the acreage and bed capacity. Please support any future legislation to that end. Thank you very much for allowing me to share a concentrated summary of our priorities for the upcoming session, and we look forward to working with you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Michael DeLong.
Thank you. I'm Michael DeLong, president of the Montgomery County Young Democrats, a club of young Democrats ages 14 to 35, working to improve Montgomery County and Maryland. We urge the delegation to support Governor Moore's redistricting efforts for Maryland's congressional districts. Right now, Trump's launched an unprecedented attack on our democracy, calling on various states to redraw their congressional districts in order to gerrymander people out of power and give him rubber stamp members of Congress. So refusing to look at redistricting under these circumstances amounts to unilateral disarmament. Maryland deserves both a good map, but also representatives who will fight for democracy. So this needs to be looked at. We also urge the Maryland legislature to pass good cause eviction, which you're very familiar with, and which would allow counties to enact laws that stop landlords from evicting tenants without a good reason, such as failing to pay their rent or by damaging their property. It will help people stay in their homes, and we further urge you to adopt measures that build more housing and promote more construction of all kinds of housing in order to bring down costs and help ease the housing crisis. Maryland is also home to a great many immigrants who contribute to our economy and society. The Trump administration is currently terrorizing people who have lived here for years and who have committed no crime at all. They're being imprisoned, they're being abused without due process, and families are being ripped apart. To protect immigrants, we urge you to end the 287G programs that several Maryland counties have negotiated, which authorize local law enforcement to cooperate with ICE. These programs are expensive since local governments have to bear most of the costs. They result in racial profiling and result in civil rights abuses. Stephen Miller is trying to use ICE to harm as many undocumented people as possible, and Maryland should not make it easy for them. So we urge the delegation to follow in the footsteps of Emma Lazarus and pass a law that bans all 287G agreements in Maryland. Finally, we understand that in the 2026 session, you're going to be facing serious budget problems, a shortfall of $1.4 billion. When closing this gap, we urge you to consider the least fortunate among Marylanders and to ensure that this budget isn't balanced at the expense of people. So we urge the delegation to follow in the footsteps of Emma Lazarus. And please contact us if you've got any questions. Maryland. Finally, we understand that in the
Sorry, and Paula needs to get muted. There we go. Okay. Sorry about that, Michael. Next up, our former colleague, Al Carr.
Good evening, Chair Polakovich-Carr, Chair Kramer, friends and former colleagues. For the record, Al Carr, and I'm here tonight as a volunteer for the Montgomery County Sierra Club. You have our written testimony where we mention 3 local priorities: Vision Zero, light pollution, and development review. I'll touch on the first one. To get more people out of their cars and onto transit, walking and biking, we need to make our roads safer. Most of the roads that are unsafe are our state roads. the numbered roads, including University, Veers Mill, New Hampshire, Georgia, Connecticut Avenue, and Rockville Pike. Recent pedestrian fatalities weigh heavily on me, especially James Anderson, a 16-year-old boy who died crossing University Boulevard in Kensington. The State Highway Administration was aware of the safety problems at this location for at least 5 years. That's when the boy's mother had flagged it for the District 18 team, and we shared it with them, but they failed to act. Clearly, our governance arrangement on state roads is not working. There's a confusing split of responsibility between the county and the state. In 2009, then Senator Madaleno introduced a local bill, House Bill 947. It would have transferred responsibility for all the state roads from SHA to the county, along with the resources. It would have been giving Montgomery County the same deal that Baltimore City gets. Perhaps it is time to restart that conversation and reintroduce that bill. The Montgomery County Sierra Club is in support of a local government takeover of all of our state roads in the county. Let SHA handle 495 and 270 where there's no pedestrians, and MCDOT can do a better job on the other roads. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Casey Wade.
My name is Casey Wade. I'm a resident of District 14 and a volunteer leader with Jews United for Justice. JUFJ organizes 6,000 Jewish Marylanders and allies to advocate for social, racial, and economic justice at the state and local level. As we near the 2026 legislative session, JUFJ is continuing to work alongside our coalition partners to meet the moment. At JUFJ, we continue to act upon our Jewish values to mobilize our communities and collaborate with those most directly impacted by harmful policies. By advancing campaigns that strengthen social, racial, and economic justice, we can build a Maryland where everyone can thrive. Our top 3 priorities for this session are: 1, preventing evictions to keep everyone, regardless of race or income, housed in stable, affordable, and safe homes. Alongside our partners in Renters United Maryland, we are calling on the legislator to fully fund the Community Schools Rental Assistance Program and pass good cause evictions legislation, enabling local jurisdictions to implement protections that would prevent unjust evictions without undermining rent stabilization in Montgomery County. 2, treating kids as kids and increasing public safety by giving children who encounter our state's criminal legal system a chance to learn and grow rather than be discarded. We join our partners at the Maryland Youth Justice Coalition in supporting legislation to end automatically charging kids as adults in all cases. The current automatic system is inefficient, costly, and harmful. We are grateful for Senator Smith's leadership on this legislation and call on the legislator to pass the strongest possible bill to end this harmful practice. 3, protecting Maryland immigrant communities by passing legislation to prohibit local jurisdictions from entering into 287G voluntary agreements with ICE. As of now, 8 sheriff departments have entered into these agreements in Maryland. The most impactful thing Maryland can do to protect immigrant communities is to ban these agreements. We are grateful that the House conveyed their support for this legislation and that the Senate President has announced his support as well. With so many Montgomery County legislators in key leadership positions and on key committees, your partnership on these issues will be critical. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And our last witness for this panel is Gianna Amar.
Good morning. My name is Rena Amar, and I'm representing CASA. We are a national organization working to build power for immigrant and working class communities. Thank you for this opportunity to present our priorities for the upcoming legislative session. CASA's priorities are focused on increasing protection for Maryland's immigrant community in this era of heightened immigration enforcement across the country. We want to build on the essential protections provided by the Maryland Values Act. We ask you to support our 3 key priority areas. First, banning 287G agreements across the state to become one of the states leading on this issue, like Delaware and others. Second, enhancing data privacy protections for immigrants to prevent sensitive data being shared for immigration enforcement. And last but not least, increasing funding of immigration legal services. This funding is critical as we are seeing a drastic need for immigration services as a result of the federal immigration enforcement across the state, as well as the increase in ICE's budget. We feel this need for legal services will only increase over time. These priority areas focused on protecting Maryland's immigrant community are all the more important at this moment when we are witnessing ICE abuse constitutional rights. We are receiving reports of cases involving physical abuse and brutal arrests. For example, one impacted individual, a day laborer, was detained by purported ICE agents at a bus stop in front of CASA's Baltimore office. He was beaten by 6 officials and was initially held at ICE's Baltimore hold room. When he asked why they were taking him, they responded, "Because you're Latino." He was then swiftly deported to Honduras. We request your support for our priority area so Maryland can do its part to protect the many immigrants who call this state home. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to all our witnesses on that panel. I do not see any hands raised for questions for this panel. So we'll thank you all, and I'll turn it back to Chair Kramer.
Thank you. And our first person on the next panel speaking is Jason Spiegel on behalf of the Maryland Military Coalition.
Thank you. The Maryland Military Coalition's #1 priority is regulating claims predators, those who charge veterans a fee to process benefit claims. Veteran services organizations and the state provide free claims assistance by personnel accredited by the Department of Veterans Affairs. As documented in the Washington Post last week, many unaccredited, unregulated individuals charge veterans a fee to assist with benefit claims. Under federal law, individuals who are not accredited by the Veterans Administration are explicitly banned from preparing claims, but all penalties for violating the law were repealed in 2006. In response, states have enacted consumer protection legislation that regulates claim predators, and Maryland should do so as well. Such legislation should require those individuals to clearly disclose in writing that the state and VSOs offer the same services for free. Legislation must also limit compensation to the amount provided in federal law, prohibit referral, upfront, and non-refundable fees and interest charges, prohibit the guarantee of a specific amount of veterans' benefits, and prohibit withdrawal of fees from a veteran's bank account. Our second priority arises from our concern for the health of the Veterans Trust Fund, which provides financial assistance to veterans in financial crisis. The trust fund periodically runs out of money before all qualified potential claimants can be supported. Accordingly, we support dedicating a portion of the proceeds from the cannabis tax to the Veterans Trust Fund. I want to thank Delegate Vogel for his leadership on this issue and urge you to support the bill that he has pre-filed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And speaking next is Bridget. And Bridget, is it pronounced Howie?
How, just like how
Or
are you
how?
doing?
Okay.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Bridget Howe, and I'm Executive Director of Nonprofit Montgomery, an alliance of nonprofits that provide services to county residents. Last year, we conducted a nonprofit needs assessment and released a data-packed report on the nonprofit sector in March 2025. Our findings in that report led us to 4 sets of recommendations for sustainable funding, for investment in physical infrastructure, and in the infrastructure for new models of collaboration, and finally, for policies that benefit low and middle income residents, which includes much of the nonprofit workforce. Between July and September, we did a follow-up survey to capture impacts on nonprofits from the federal government's actions since January. We learned that nearly 3/4 of nonprofits in Montgomery County have experienced a decline in individual donations. We learned that 2/3 have seen a decrease in corporate and foundation support. We also learned that 60% had clients or staff who have been harmed by federal immigration actions. One nonprofit leader shared, "There is growing uncertainty in the landscape due to impacts from tariffs on our costs, job losses, general economic uncertainty, and the impact from that on our donations. All the variables in our formula are impacted." Our recommendations now include a request that all officials representing Montgomery County recommit to supporting at-risk populations in underserved communities, not just with words, but also with legislation. Every county resident deserves the opportunity to thrive. We also strongly recommend that policymakers recognize the unique vulnerabilities of the nonprofit sector and choose to invest in its future. This looks like support for indirect costs, investment in capacity building, and a willingness to explore new models of collaboration. Finally, we ask that you continue to share information regularly and transparently. The impacts of federal funding cuts and federal and contractor job losses on the state budget is important information and should be shared openly to catalyze a coordinated multi-sector response. Thank you for your time and your commitment to keeping Montgomery County's nonprofits strong.
Thank you very much, Bridget. And now we have Sharon Deach.
Hello, thank you for having me this evening. I'm Sharon Dici, the Executive Director of the National Alliance on Mental Illness for Montgomery County. We help thousands of residents who are affected by mental health conditions build better lives through our free peer-led support groups, education programs, and advocacy. A significant group of people living with mental illness urgently need faster access to care. At any given time, 40 to 50 individuals in the Montgomery County Correctional Facility are waiting for the Maryland Department of Health to transfer them to a psychiatric facility. Although the state is required to make these placements within 10 days, many people spend months in jail deteriorating before they receive appropriate treatment. This problem is raised repeatedly in summits and work groups, and there is unanimous agreement that the situation is unacceptable, yet no concrete solutions have been offered. We therefore urge you to press the Department of Health for a clear, actionable plan to resolve this crisis. Next, we'd like to thank you for supporting funding for the 988 crisis line. To ensure more people can benefit from this vital resource, we need two things: greater public awareness of 988 and collaboration between 911 and 988 so that appropriate calls are transferred to crisis counselors. Here in Montgomery County, agency leaders are working hard to make this coordination a reality, but interoperability is enormously complex. That's why, following the lead of several other states, Maryland should establish clear standards and guidance for 988 911 interoperability. At the September summit convened by the Governor's Center for Excellence, leaders from Human Services and Justice System came together to identify priorities diverting people from the criminal justice system. Participants ranked 911 988 collaboration as one of their top needs. We hope state leaders will take this as a signal to make it a high priority as well. We encourage the state to establish common elements such as unified call triage protocol to promote statewide consistency and accelerate progress toward full interoperability. Thank you for your consideration.
And thank you. Next, we have Katrina Emerson Kugel.
Hi, my name is Katrina Emerson Kugel. I do government relations at SEEK. We are a nonprofit that supports over 300 adults with IDD, intellectual and developmental disabilities, and employs over 200 staff that allow them to live lives of their choosing. We're also members of Nonprofit Montgomery. Thank you. I'm thankful every day that we do our work here in Montgomery County, from fighting for the disability community this session to supporting our Take Your Legislator to Work events. You've been our partners and champions, and we're truly grateful. Our priorities this year center around our guiding principle of live, work, thrive. First, we want to find ways to enshrine the Olmstead decision, prioritizing and strengthening home and community-based services, ensuring that people with disabilities can live in their communities. In terms of work, we are always looking for ways to strengthen disability employment. I was at a conference where former Congressman Tony Coelho said, people with disabilities are the one group of Americans who actually want to pay taxes. The people we support who work make $4.1 million a year. Not nothing in terms of tax revenue. And in terms of thriving, supporting voting rights, transportation, housing systems that allow people with disabilities to live their best lives they choose is another priority of ours. We've been at the center of two perfect storms. One is the situation at the DDA. The challenges with the redetermination process continue. We are now owed $680,000 for services rendered to people who were temporarily kicked off of the waiver. Our second storm is coming from Washington. The cuts to Medicaid and H.R. 1 may not specifically target us, but make no mistake, a cut to one Medicaid program is a cut to all Medicaid programs. The supports we provide, unlike Social Security, are not an entitlement, meaning technically our services are optional. We are cognizant of the budget challenges you all are facing and ask that you continue to support the work that SEEK and all the community providers in the county do every day to ensure that people with disabilities live lives of their choosing, enriching our community as they do. Thank you.
Thank you, Katrina. And our final speaker on this panel is Mary Renderos.
Hi, I'm Mary Renderos with Jubilee Association of Maryland. Jubilee supports over 200 adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities in Montgomery County. Thank you for the opportunity to share the priorities on behalf of our clients, their families, and our nearly 500 staff. We deeply appreciate the delegation's leadership and support on funding for disability service providers and your efforts to restore many of the proposed cuts in the last legislative session. Jubilee faced a loss of about $1.6 million this fiscal year. While recognizing Maryland's budget challenges and impending federal Medicaid cuts, we urge you to continue protecting funding for disability service providers. The system won't work well without reliable, predictable rates. Last month, the DDA reduced the geographic differential reimbursement rate, resulting in a decrease in funding for Montgomery County disability service providers. We urge you to reject any proposals to further cut the geographic differential rate. Reducing the rate will restrict providers from competing with other Montgomery County businesses for skilled talent. It erodes progress on raising the wage for direct support professionals that helps us combat a workforce shortage. We urge the delegation to focus on accountability and improvements at the Maryland Eligibility Determination Division, EDD. Jubilee has 35 people who have been disenrolled from Medicaid, often through no fault of their own, in the past year. We've provided nearly $1 million in unpaid services due to these systemic failures. This is not sustainable. Maryland Medicaid will require additional support as it faces new and onerous federal requirements from H.R. 1. Finally, Jubilee is committed to equity and access to services for all Marylanders with disabilities. We urge the state to include funding for cultural navigators in the Department of Health DDA budget. Cultural navigators help break down cultural and systemic barriers for Marylanders that need help to access disability services. Thank you again for your time and service. We look forward to working with you in the upcoming session.
Thank you very much, Mary. Do we have any questions from legislators for this panel? And seeing none, Chair Polakovich-Carr.
All right, starting our next panel is Jackie Machina, and I'm sorry, I'm probably mispronouncing that, so please correct me.
Sure, that's fine. Greetings, delegates. My name is Jackie Machina, and I'm the Senior Outreach Coordinator for the Renters Alliance. The Renters Alliance is the first and only regional nonprofit dedicated exclusively to providing renter outreach, education, organizing, and advocacy. In addition to renter outreach and education, we help form tenant associations, improve tenant-landlord relations, and we advocate before city, county, and state governments for renters' rights for stable, quality, affordable housing and against unjust evictions. Our number one priority remains getting good cause local enabling legislation finally passed without any poison amendment. The eviction rates in the state and in Montgomery County are high, doubling in the past 3 months, indicating serious housing instability that's only going to get worse without the appropriate intervention. Under current state law, landlords can refuse to renew a lease without a stated justification, even if the tenant has paid rent on time and followed all the rules. This means renters can lose their homes, as we often observe, for seeking promised or required services or retaliation for defending their rights. No-cause evictions disproportionately affect our most vulnerable residents, including seniors, families with children, and low-income tenants who have limited housing options. When tenants are evicted without cause, they often face increased housing costs, homelessness, and disruptions to employment or schooling. A good cause law would provide greater stability and security. The House of Delegates passed good cause legislation in 2023, 96 to 37, but it died without a vote from the Judicial Proceedings Committee in the Senate. Many residents feel betrayed and unprotected because they rely on those they voted for to honor promises made to strengthen tenant protections. The Renters Alliance is imploring JPR to move a clean, good cause eviction bill to a vote. Housing is a basic human need, and we believe a right. Good cause laws create a balance between landlord rights and tenant protections, ensuring that renters who follow the rules aren't displaced without justification. We urge you to act in good faith and to consider the housing instability of nearly 40% of residents in the state who rent their homes. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do not see our next witness, William Merrifield. We will circle back to him if he comes into the room. So next we'll go to Emily Toey.
Good evening. Thank you all for giving me the opportunity to testify tonight on the importance of prioritizing both rental housing affordability and stability in this upcoming session without compromising one or the other. My name is Emily Towie, and I'm a lifelong resident of Montgomery County and currently reside in the city of Gaithersburg in District 39. As a City of Gaithersburg resident, I do not get to enjoy the rent stabilization protections afforded to my neighbors in the county. This means I am left vulnerable to unregulated rent increases and junk rental fees. It would be a step backwards if these vulnerabilities were expanded to the rest of the county's residents by weakening rent stabilization in exchange for good cause eviction protections, as was proposed in the Senate JPR committee last session. Why should Montgomery County residents have to choose between being protected from skyrocketing rents or unjust evictions? I believe we can be a county that prides itself on protecting tenants from destabilization on all fronts, instead of encouraging a Wild West market that favors profits over people. Governor Wes Moore and Secretary of Housing Jake Day have been in the news recently talking about new investments into creating new affordable housing. While it would be great to have more affordable housing options, new developments are not a substitute for renter protections or an immediate fix. To promote housing stability and affordability, renters need a holistic combined approach of rent subsidies, renter protections, and affordable rental housing supply. One cannot replace the other. I am a college graduate with a full-time job, and I'm not able to afford rent on my own and will also most likely never be able to buy a house in Gaithersburg. They will never be able to build enough housing to bring rents down to a level that rent stabilization can. And even with rent increases capped, I would still be subject to eviction at the end of my lease without good cause protections. Montgomery County does not have to choose between protecting renters with legislation or subsidies or building more affordable housing, but can instead choose the whole package. We can be a county that offers residents both affordability and stability. I hope you believe the same. Thank you for your time and service and consideration.
Thank you. Next is Michael McKee.
Hello, I'm Michael McKee, and I'm speaking about two issues. The first is approval voting. I'd like to say that I strongly support MC 1-26, the voting methods bill, which would enable Montgomery County to use RCV and approval voting. The way that approval voting works is that a voter can vote for as many candidates as they want, even if only one is the winner. I think that ranked choice is better than our current choose one voting method, but that approval voting is in fact much better than ranked choice. Approval voting gives candidates an incentive to campaign positively, because you don't want to alienate the supporter of another politician who might be willing to vote for you too. We see in approval voting elections in St. Louis, Missouri, that new voting machines did not have to be bought, and that election results were announced very quickly. Another reason is that the Republican Senator Michael McKay of Western Maryland, no relation, introduced an approval voting bill in the 2025 session, Senate Bill number 996. Well, I think that we should always try to be bipartisan when possible when passing laws about how voters choose their elected officials. That is especially true. Issue number 2 is enablement legislation for Maryland counties to levy a land value tax, as is currently done in parts of Pennsylvania as an alternative to the conventional property tax. Whereas property tax is based on the value of land and overlying structures, the LVT is only based on the value of land. Because buildings are not taxed, this is a revenue neutral way to incentivize construction, including housing, which we desperately need more of. Baltimore Delegate Kaylin Young sponsored a bill in the 2025 session that would have legalized LVT for Baltimore, House Bill 1178, and I would like to see a future version include Montgomery County. I would also like to refer the delegation to the organization Baltimore Thrive that's pushing for this, and note that they're looking for a budget committee sponsor for 2026. That's it. I thank the delegates for giving me the opportunity to speak. Living in a democracy, I think, is awesome. Thank you so much.
I agree. Living in a democracy is awesome. Thank you for your testimony. Next up is Michelle Whitaker.
Hello, welcome. So glad to be here. I'm Michelle Whitaker, Executive Director for Ranked Choice Voting Maryland, and a proud Montgomery County resident. Our democracy is at a critical point at the local, state, and national level. We can all agree that our government should be of, by, and for the people, and that means it should work for all of us, not the powerful few. And we can all agree that our government should reflect the people. That means that there should be opportunities for women, people of color, and disadvantaged communities to run and serve. Threats to our democracy today are creating barriers to local autonomy, cutting voters off from having a voice in electing leaders, and fueling partisanship over policy solutions. Fortunately, we the people have practical and proven solutions at our hands to combat the threats we face today. First, we need to support ranked choice voting for cities and enabling bills for counties. On November 4th, the city of Greenbelt in Prince George's County approved a referendum for RCV. Greenbelt is poised to become the first city in that county and the second in Maryland to use ranked choice voting, joining Tacoma Park and giving voters greater choice and a stronger voice in their elections. Many municipalities use their local board, county board of elections to run their elections. And as the state board of elections moves forward with procurement, our voting equipment must remain capable of handling RCV elections. Secondly, we need to stand up for voting rights. We are seeing that voting rights are fragile at all levels, and I urge the delegation to support and advance Maryland Voting Rights Act to prevent vote dilution. We strongly urge the delegation to also advance fair representation policies to combat gerrymandering. Our testimony before the Governor's Redistricting Advisory Commission recognizes the moment we are in, and we believe that fair and representative districts are fundamental to a functioning democracy. They allow elected leaders to focus on ideas over ideologies and uplift people over partisanship. This is our time. This is the time for us to move forward these proven democracy solutions, and I urge all of you to take action. Thank you. Have a great evening, and I will see you all in Annapolis.
All right, thank you. And our last witness on this panel is Paula Bienenfeld.
Hi, nice to see you all, more or less on Zoom. I'm Dr. Paula Bienenfeld. I'm past president of the Montgomery County Civic Federation and my old neighborhood association, Lux Manor Civic Association. I'm a member of the Parents Coalition of Montgomery County, and I'm on the senior leadership team of the Montgomery County Jewish Parents Coalition. And I've been an activist here for many years, as many of you know. I'm here tonight to speak on 3 issues. First, special elections. We must have special elections in Maryland. It's undemocratic and it is unconscionable that we do not have elections and we do not have the right to vote, both at the county and at the state level, when legislators vacate their office. As just one example, of the 4 District 16 legislators, 3 are appointed. Only 1 member was elected. I understand Delegate Foley will again be introducing legislation so we can regain our right to vote. Democracy dies when we don't have the right to vote. This is a dark stain on Maryland, and I hope you support the legislation. Second, I and an overwhelming number of residents do support the Maryland Israel Development Center, the MIDC, a nonprofit. It has been involved in bringing businesses and high-paying jobs to Maryland for over 30 years. These include biotech and cutting-edge medical care jobs, high-tech jobs and businesses, and now AI businesses and jobs. Maryland needs these jobs now more than ever, and our state benefits financially from the work of the center. And finally, as past president of the Civic Fed, I support the priorities which Ms. Gannon will discuss in the next group of speakers. In particular, we in the county must have true government transparency. We still need a People's Council to be reinstated, and we need oversight of our semi-independent agencies like MNC, PPC, and MCPS. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and I wish you all a very productive session. Thanks.
Thank you. And our other witness from this panel is still not in the waiting room or in the Zoom meeting. So that is it for this panel. Colleagues, any questions? Not seeing any hands. Thank you, and turn it over to you, Chair Kramer.
Thank you. And first up is Cheryl Gannon from the Montgomery County Civic Federation.
Sorry, I was muted. Good evening. My name is Cheryl Gannon. I'm the president of the Montgomery County Civic Federation. Our legislative priorities for this year will focus on transparency, inclusion, and ethics in government. In that vein, our top priority is the establishment of a People's Council as an independent advocate in the public interest on land use issues. The MNC PPC is a state agency, and we believe the state has a responsibility to provide this assistance to residents in a complex process and a voice for the public good. Prince George's is our partner in the agency, and they have a People's Council in the state code with state funding. Please work with the Montgomery County Council toward renewing a People's Council. This will be a litmus test issue for our members this year. In addition, the Montgomery County Planning Board should be held to the same standards as 19 other state agencies and be required to lock its agenda 48 hours before a meeting, particularly since they require witnesses to sign up to testify 48 hours in advance. Last-minute agenda changes and a lag in document sharing and board materials shielded from the public make it difficult for residents to understand and participate. Third, vacancies for state delegates and senators should be filled by election and not appointment. Far too many state representatives from Montgomery County were chosen by other elected officials and not the people. Taking away the right of residents to choose their own representatives is undemocratic and must be changed. Finally, Montgomery County has a vacancy for council member at large, which will be filled by appointment of the council. The initial screening, application materials, financial disclosures, and interviews of top candidates will be held behind closed doors and hidden from public view. And we believe this violates the intent of the Open Meetings Act and the democratic process. We ask that you amend General Provisions 3-305 to exclude an option for closed meetings when selecting what would otherwise have been an elected official. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cheryl. Next, we have Heron Schoenholz, Communities Coalition.
Thank you, Chair Kramer. Good evening. My name is Howard Schoenholz. I'm a member of the Montgomery County Communities Coalition, 30-year resident of the county and of D16. Thank you to the members of the Montgomery County delegation for giving me the opportunity to testify this evening. The key thing that will get us through these challenging times for Maryland is revitalizing our economic growth and development. Grow our economy, and everything else will follow. I urge you to make that your North Star as you write legislation for the upcoming session. I would also urge you to make sure that any legislation you submit be data-driven. Our own D16 delegate Sarah Wallach's housing data legislation that was passed last session is an important step in the direction of codifying data collection and dissemination. I think we can all agree that you can't produce meaningful legislation to help grow Maryland's economy unless it's based on current, verifiable data. And please be sure to include your constituents and stakeholders in this process in a way that not only values their input, but uses that input to inform your decision-making. Remember that legislation without stakeholder buy-in is rarely successful. Meet with your local chambers of commerce, small business owners, and local and regional business leaders. Reach out to civic and community organizations in your districts. Those groups can often give you a quick read on current public opinion, identify and speak with people in your districts with good ideas, and there are lots of them, and they also have the expertise to back up those ideas. Now, James Carville spoke the truth when he said, "It's the economy, stupid." I urge you to make economic growth and development the centerpiece of the next session. Do that, and the people of Maryland and Montgomery County not only will thank you, they'll reelect you. Thank you very much for your time.
And thank you, Howard. Angie McCarthy, please.
Good evening, all. I'm Angie McCarthy, the Maryland Conservation Advocate for Nature Forward. We are the oldest independent environmental nonprofit in the DMV region. I'm also the co-chair of the newly formed Marylanders for Data Center Reform Coalition. I'm here tonight to urge our Montgomery County delegation to support bills that regulate data centers to be the best possible neighbors and partners for Montgomery County, while protecting ratepayers and our environment alike. To that end, we are asking for your support on two portions. Number one, the Data Center Study Bill override or reintroduction from Senator Karen Lewis Young. As pressure from regional grid operators and the data center industry grows, it is imperative that policymakers have the best available data and research to build data centers, while prioritizing sustainability and reducing harms to our communities. Powering the grid through data center expansion is not just a state issue, it is a regional challenge. Number two, we are in support of Delegate Lord Charkoudian's demand response bill that would require that data centers have 50 hours of load shifting capacity that does not rely on backup diesel or gas generators. This would ensure that data centers that do not take precedence over the needs of residences, schools, hospitals, and Maryland's local businesses. We understand the financial appeal of data centers, especially when we're looking down the barrel of a $1.5 billion deficit. But we are hoping for more clarity on the true cost of their unfettered access to our state. We know that good things are rarely free, and that our most vulnerable populations will ultimately be paying the highest prices. We hear about the financial gains going to Northern Virginia and falsely fear that we are losing a race to attract hyperscalers. But just this past month, Governor Youngkin invested $8 billion into Stafford County, Virginia. That would only create 50 new jobs. Not sure if we can afford that. Maryland needs to independently study how much data centers will cost all of us in our electric bills, towards our public health, and towards our surging water costs, and weigh that with the potential tax revenue that we will have been enticed with. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to seeing you all in Annapolis' General Assembly.
And thank you very much. And now we have Nadia Carell.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Nadia Carroll, a resident of Bethesda and a former very grateful recipient of NIH research funding which was always competitive. There was never enough for all of the worthy projects in our labs across the country. As you know, this year we've witnessed unprecedented cuts in funding to the NIH. Entire labs have lost funding. And I thank the Maryland federal, state, and local officials who have held meetings with the NIH workforce and former employees, working to restore the funding and help those who have lost their labs and jobs. Yet at the same time, those very officials are declaring support for our Maryland research workforce. They are voting year after year to give Maryland taxpayer dollars to the Maryland Israel Development Corporation, an entity that is working to give Israeli life science and biotech companies advantages to winning the severely diminished research funding that is now available. Our governor has welcomed the companies claiming that we want foreign investment. But if these meetings were about foreign investment, then why did the MIDC, along with the Embassy of Israel, arrange an insider day at NIH, where their connections at NIH advised these Israeli companies on grant funding and research opportunities and how to get them with the NIH and the Department of Defense Health Division? First of all, our elected officials should be prioritizing connections and advice on securing these severely diminished funding dollars to our labs and workers that have had their funding slashed and labs shut down. Secondly, numerous international organizations have declared that Israel is responsible for a genocide in Palestine, and governments and companies that do business and or facilitate business with Israel are complicit in that genocide and could be found guilty of genocide also. This is a risk that Maryland and Montgomery County cannot take. And lastly, only because of the pressure of a cultural, academic, and economic boycott of South Africa did apartheid there end. Montgomery County showed moral leadership, taking steps in 1985 towards an economic boycott of South Africa. We need that same moral leadership now. Stop funding the MIDC. Stop giving foreign companies a path to funding under the guise of foreign investment. Thank you.
And next we have Beatrice Cope, please.
Good evening. My name is Beatrice Cope, and I'm here to address two critical issues that are actively undermining Maryland's economic growth, weakening our competitiveness, and imposing unnecessary burdens on residents. Number one, the financial state and lack of transparency within our school system. Number two, our missed opportunity to become a true healthcare powerhouse because of outdated restrictive policies. I urge you to make school budget transparency a top statewide priority. We need a mandatory and public infrastructure review and project scheduling process, transparent procurement, contracting, and maintenance reporting, oversight measures that prevent waste and prevent situations like what recently happened with the $168 million electric bus contract ruled illegal by the state. The second issue is our healthcare system. Maryland's hospital revenues are capped under an outdated model that no longer serves residents or providers. It restricts investment, contributes to long wait times, and leaves our hospitals unable to meet current demands, let alone prepare for the future growth. Montgomery County and Maryland should be national leaders in healthcare. We sit next to NIH, FDA, and world-class research institutions, yet we're not capitalizing on that proximity. I believe we can change that with serious investment in a children's national campus near the NIH, a statewide strategy that supports integrative and holistic health research research corridors near the NIH, and a broader economic development plan that positions Maryland as a healthcare innovation hub. In summary, we're at a crisis moment. These issues, schools, hospital capacity, and economic competitiveness must come before any discussion about redistricting or other priorities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that's the end of this panel. Do we have any questions from the legislators? And seeing none, thank you all very much on this panel. Moving on now, Chair Polakovich-Carr.
Great. Thank you, Senator Kramer. Starting our next panel, we have Janet Gallant. And Janet, if you can unmute yourself.
Yes.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you. I'm Janet Gallant, co-coordinator of Don'tWiden270.org. We work with a statewide coalition for sustainable transportation, and we are grateful for your transportation efforts in the public interest. We are worried right now. The Moore administration has backed itself into a high-risk corner with their American Legion Bridge 495-270 project. They chose to go with Larry Hogan's toll lane plan as approved in a U.S. DOT record of decision, the ROD. In 2023, Aruna Miller said, quote, "We can't start off from scratch. We have to go with whatever the ROD has." Here are three of our concerns. MDOT seems increasingly likely to use a for-profit private partner, a P3, for this project. Paul Wiedefeld, on Senator Kagan's podcast, said of such P3s, the state gives up the ability to control the future and the taxpayer pays. A second concern, out of the Maryland public's eye, MDOT signed a 2024 agreement with VDOT, ostensibly about highway signage, but also obligating the states to negotiate a Bridge and 270 agreement and agree to tolling and operational terms. And a third concern, per the ROD, MDOT will construct toll lanes inside Virginia, from south of the George Washington Parkway to the bridge. This appears to be unprecedented in the U.S., one state building toll lanes in another state. How will the public's interests be protected? This toll lane project requires transparency, but MDOT does little public sharing of substantive information. We appreciate anything you can do to help mitigate the risks and keep the public informed. Thank you.
Thank you. And next is Derek Hebert, or Hebert.
Good evening. Thank you very much for the opportunity to testify. My name is Derek Hebert, and I'm testifying to encourage the completion of the I-270 sound barrier on either side of exit 6 in the West End area of Rockville. This project was stopped in 2014 when the landowner of a Woodley Gardens Plaza objected to its construction since it would block visibility from the freeway. Since then, the ownership of the plaza has changed, and the way people find things has moved from signage on the roadside to their phones. This is a relatively small project, I get it, in an evening when we've been talking a lot about really big issues, but this would make a huge difference to the many families of the West End Park neighborhood. For those that don't know, this is an incredibly diverse, family-friendly community in Rockville. There are tremendous numbers of families with small children, and very loud traffic noise, particularly in the winter, is a significant nuisance that negatively impacts quality of life. Studies have shown that noise pollution is a public health menace, and the sound barrier would make a big difference. Other communities, including new developments along 270, are seeing sound barriers built all around us. We're seeing them. We qualify based on state criteria, and this barrier should have been in place 10 years ago, if not for a short-sighted landowner. If you can find some funds in a budget for this, my neighbors and I would be sincerely grateful. Finally, as you try to prioritize an extremely tough budget year, I urge you to focus on effectiveness and on visible, real-life impact that invests in the future of well-being for Maryland communities. We've got to prove that democracy works by making government actually work. This goes beyond new laws, rules, and regulations, and is about how people experience government through the agencies that implement the legislation. I hope that we can also focus on that as we try to prioritize across these many deserving priorities. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. The next witness who is signed up Frank Gittleson is not logged into the Zoom, so we will circle back if he comes into the room. So we will move on to Sandra Landis. Sandra, you are muted.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Sandra Landis, and I'm here tonight wearing two hats. I'm the Montgomery County chapter leader of Start School Later, a national organization dedicated to ensuring school start times compatible with health, safety, education, and equity. I simultaneously serve as the Bell Time Subcommittee Chair of the MCCPTA. Education in Montgomery County is in crisis, and we cannot fix it without you. We are fortunate to have a new superintendent who is deeply qualified to lead, yet he walked into a firestorm of scandals and failures that predate him. On top of that, he's now trying to steer a school system that's decades overdue for healthy science-based bell times. He implemented that successfully in Virginia, and he can do it here for us only if given the mandate to do so. MCPS is in the midst of a massive boundary and program study. This is a once-in-a-generation window to finally align our school system with the overwhelming scientific consensus on adolescent sleep. However, no superintendent, however capable, can push this through while simultaneously battling the crises ours inherited. However, with a state mandate, he and his fellow superintendents throughout the state can. I'd like to remind you that sleep deprivation is tied to the two leading causes of adolescent death: car accidents and suicide. These are preventable tragedies. Studies show that when secondary school start times shift to 8:30 a.m. or later, we see improvements including less aggression and reduced gun violence. Given that teen crime in Montgomery County rose 95% between 2019 and 2024, we should pay attention to this. Our current lieutenant governor championed the bill for healthy school hours when she was a Montgomery County delegate, which was the first legislation of its type in the nation. We need you to carry that legacy forward by co-sponsoring legislation establishing science-compliant guardrails on bell times. Such legislation was promulgated in each of the last two legislative sessions but failed to get enacted. Please don't let us fail again, because no one in the county delegation with the largest school system in the state would co-sponsor the bill to make this a reality.
Thank you for your testimony. Next is Patty Winters. Patty, you are up. Oh, there we go.
Hi, and I apologize, I can't get my camera on, but good evening, everybody. My name is Patty Winters, and I am the proud team leader of Phoenix Rising Maryland Recovery School Advocates. Our work led to the reopening of the Phoenix School, now known as the Recovery Academic Program, or RAP. Montgomery County is the birthplace of recovery education, with the Phoenix School opening in 1979. You can read the comprehensive history in Dr. Finch's book, which I wanted to show, but you have the link in the testimonial, and it was just published last fall. Since 2018, RAP has been an integral part in helping students in recovery from a substance use disorder, many of whom have co-occurring disorders, sustain their sobriety so they can regain their self-respect and contribute to society. Recent graduates are in college or have joined the military. Having a safe place to resume working toward their high school diploma after completing treatment with peers who also want to stay sober is essential for these students to avoid relapse and significantly increase the feasibility for their graduation. This is what RAP does. The recent Medicaid cuts mean fewer mental health and substance use recovery supports in the community. If these precious students lose their school-based supports provided by RAP, their futures or lives will be lost. You are charged to do everything you can to keep RAP open and to support recovery education statewide for the sake of Maryland's youth and families who need it. So thank you and happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Thank you. And our last witness on this panel is Andy Leon Harney.
Good evening. I want to compliment all of you on the all of the legislators on listening so patiently now that it's 9:30 to the myriad concerns of your constituents. So we really appreciate it. I am the recently retired village manager of Section 3 of the Village of Chevy Chase and have a continuing part-time position with Section 3 to help them with drainage and street lighting issues. Section 3 wanted me to take this opportunity to bring an issue affecting most but not all Montgomery County municipalities, a conflict over streetlight billing between PEPCO, State Highway Administration, and those municipalities with state highways within their jurisdiction. This dispute emerged from a complaint to the Public Service Commission made by former Delegate Al Carr, which resulted in case number 9706. To cut to the chase, we were all surveyed to accurately link specific PEPCO streetlights to our streetlight bills, something that had never existed before, believe it or not. SHA mills, paves, and repairs roads running through our communities all the time. They trim trees, they remove dead trees, they install and repair signs, but in some, but not all cases, SHA thinks we, the municipalities, should pay the light bill on state highways. We think they should. We believe we may need your assistance in resolving this dispute. It appears that it does not fall within PSC's purview to deal with other state agencies, and PEPCO has consistently provided confusing and often inaccurate data. We look forward to working with you on this issue and hope that you'll be able to help us muddle through. And thank you for your consideration. This may not be legislative priority, it may be just an influence peddling priority, but nonetheless, we really do need your help. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, any questions for this panel? Seeing none, I'll turn it over to you, Chair Kramer.
Thank you. Susan Karen, you're up.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Susan Karen, and I'm the chair of Peace Action Montgomery. We have nearly 1,500 members in our county who believe Maryland should not be complicit in a genocide. Last year, I asked you to end state funding for the Maryland Israel Development Center. The MIDC brings Israeli weapons and surveillance companies into Maryland. 3 of those companies are actually owned by the Israeli government. Here are some updates over this past year since I last testified. This fall, the MIDC brought Eris Labs to Pike and Rose. It's a surveillance company whose founder worked for Palantir, and the company aims to sell its surveillance systems to ICE and police departments. The MIDC also harassed a Palestinian restaurant owner for displaying a mural of a man wearing a keffiyeh. Rata Technologies in Germantown has now been listed by the UN as complicit in war crimes. In August, Governor Moore gave $1 million loan to AeroVironment, a U.S. company that makes kamikaze drones. Just 3 weeks after coming into Germantown, AeroVironment signed an agreement with the Israeli government to allow Israel to expand its access to Pentagon contracts. Meanwhile, Israel's assault on the indigenous Palestinian population is staggering. UNICEF reported this week that Israel blocked 1 million vaccine syringes for children. Settler and military violence in the West Bank is at an all-time high. Israel has imprisoned a 16-year-old American boy. Israel's top military lawyer was arrested because she shared a video of Israeli soldiers raping and torturing Palestinian prisoners. The UN, Amnesty International, and now even Republicans like Marjorie Taylor Greene have called Israel's action a genocide. The budget is a moral document. Maryland should not fund an organization that contributes to such immense oppression and suffering. So I am again asking you, end funding to the Maryland Israel Development Center. Thank you.
Hope Alley, you are up.
What was once a bustling area with orchards, fish, and olive groves is now 40 million tons of debris and toxins that contain the remains of tens of thousands of men, women, and children, and the elderly. Israel has dropped the equivalent of 7 atomic bombs on the tiny population of Gaza, killing at least 70,000 people, including 20,000 children, creating the largest cohort of children amputees in recorded history, resulting in the coining of a new term, a new acronym in the medical world, WCNSF, Wounded Child, No Surviving Family. The child casualty rate from the Ukrainian war is approximately 3%, and in Gaza, it hovers around 40. Maryland has spent $400 million on weapons for Israel to commit genocide. Most, or some, if not most, of those weapons were built and engineered here in Montgomery County. Maryland's involvement in this genocide has been abhorrent, a complete betrayal of the values that Marylanders hold dear. And it has led to an identity crisis within the Democratic Party. Do you, as our representatives, stand for freedom of speech, or do you stand for the silencing of student protest and the prohibiting of boycotting Israel? Do you stand for women, children, and families, or do you stand with a country that murders a classroom of children every day? Do you stand for human rights, or do you stand for the blocking of humanitarian aid, including baby formula as newborns grow weak and their cries faint as they die from starvation? Do you stand for equality and justice, or do you stand for normalizing occupation and apartheid? Maryland has a history of leading on the issue of human rights. It was the 4th state in the country to divest from South Africa during its apartheid regime. It is high time we honor that legacy. It is high time that our representatives listen to us, divest from the MIDC, divest from the state pension. It is not only immoral, but these are bad investments, and Marylanders deserve better.
And we have Carol Chakowski.
Good evening. My name is Carol Chakowski. I'm here tonight to urge you to end the policy of automatically charging youth as adults, a policy that harms young people and does not advance public safety. Like other highly punitive measures, this practice is not effective. The threat of adult court does not stop teenagers from making bad decisions, and it does not help the community when they do. The large number of offenses that trigger auto charging in Maryland has earned Maryland the distinction of charging more children as adults per capita than any state other than Alabama. It also has resulted in wasted money and time because judges end up dismissing or transferring to juvenile court most of the cases. The problem is that the children awaiting transfer decisions are left languishing for months with little or no attention to mental health needs, with their education interrupted, and at times in facilities with unhealthy conditions which jeopardize their success. Senator Smith has talked about the huge inefficiency here in spending millions of dollars for worse outcomes for kids, and he has sponsored a bill to address this issue. The situation is even worse for the young people that are left behind in the adult system, especially those who are denied a right to request a transfer because of their offense. Many have had traumatizing childhood experiences that have adversely affected their development. It is unconscionable to put these young people in adult prisons, which are unsafe and do not provide services critical to their success. This is hardly a recipe to prevent recidivism. We cannot hope to have safe and healthy communities if we treat any young people as disposable. The solution here is to start all cases in juvenile court and to invest in giving children the help they need to succeed. I appreciate the opportunity to testify tonight, and thank you for hanging in there, everyone.
Carol, thank you very much for hanging in with us. Appreciate it. And that concludes this panel. And it looks like we're moving into the last 4 speakers of the night. And I will turn it over to Chair Polakovich Carr to call on those 4 speakers, Chair Polakovich Carr, as the Jew Hate Fest continues. Thank you.
All right. And actually of the last 4 people who are signed up for tonight, only one is with us in the Zoom room and no one is left in the waiting room at this time. So closing us out for tonight is Nathan Feldman.
Hello, all. First, I must assure you, Senator Kramer, that I, as a Jewish American, I love myself. Thank you very much. Now, it should be brought to all of your attention that Israel subcontracted security at so-called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation aid sites to an ISIS affiliate in Gaza. This story was exposed by former Israeli Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman, and when questioned by the Israeli newspaper Haaretz, Benjamin Netanyahu confirmed the story with 4 words, quote, "What's wrong with that?" If you agree with me that Maryland taxpayer dollars have no place in the hands of terrorists or supporting those states that sponsor terrorists, you must commit to defunding the Maryland Israel Development Center. Further, you must revoke the taxpayer-exempt status of so-called charities that entrench Israeli military rule in the occupied territories by passing the Not on Our Dime Act in the next legislative session. I have made each and every one of your offices aware of this aforementioned crime, among many others, via email this past year. I brought to your attention the 50-page report by the UN on Israel's widespread violence against women and children, including rape, this past May. I brought to your attention the lynchings of Palestinian U.S. citizens, including children, committed by Israeli settlers and soldiers together. I brought to your attention the Jewish People Policy Institute survey of Israeli citizens that found a sweeping majority, over 70% and more than 80% of Israeli Jews, wanted to expel the people of Gaza, with varying opinions on its practicality. I brought to your attention Israel's systematic kidnapping of Palestinian hostages to use them as human shields, as reported on by the Associated Press and the New York Times. Israel's finance minister even posed for a photo op next to graffiti with the slogan, and I quote, "Death to Arabs," and only denounced this graffiti that he posed next to for a photo op after intense public backlash. Folks, we need to stop supporting Israel through Maryland taxpayer dollars. These crimes have been live streamed for the world to see. If Palestinian lives matter in Maryland, your actions will tell the story. Thank you very much.
All right, that concludes our testimony for this evening. Again, none of the other witnesses who were previously called have joined us. So as we wrap up here this evening, I just want to thank all of our witnesses this evening for being part of this process. This is, of course, just the start of the process leading into the legislative session, and folks should be aware that we do have hearings coming up on 2 dates in December for all of the Montgomery County specific bills that have been introduced. Senator Kramer, any closing thoughts before we adjourn?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to say thank you to all my colleagues for hanging tough and lasting the night, and to all the good people who came to have a conversation with us. And my very best wishes to all for a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you, Chair Polakovich Carr. Good night, everybody.
Thank you all. We are adjourned.